Need a gavel.
We're going to need it quiet. It's not easy to hear in here.
Wow, look at that, huh?
The Board of Appeals of the Town of Chelmsford will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 7th, 2018, at the town offices, 50 Billerica Road, room 204, to request for special permits, variances, and other appeals. The meeting is being televised by Chelmsford Telemedia. This will be a continued public hearing. Brian Malessi, Whitman and Bigham Associates for Bentley Lane is seeking a variance under 195.5A conformity to construct a new single-family dwelling on a lot that will not meet requirements for lot frontage and lot width. We did go out at 6 o'clock this evening and walk the site, so we have got a good look at the parcel. Leave it up to you, Brian.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, members of the board. For the record, my name is Brian Malessi with Whitman and Bigham Associates, here representing EJH Incorporated. And as you said, this is our continued public hearing. So I think I recognize everybody from the board standpoint that was out on the property. Very briefly, for some of the people in the audience that may not have been out there, we met at 6 o'clock. We were asked at the first hearing, the opening of the hearing, prior to the continuance, to go out and stake the access into the property and stake the house box as it's shown on the plan that we submitted as part of our petition. I did get a plan to Colleen, and it's up on the screen now. Additionally, what we did while the surveyors were out there, we field located the wetland line that's out there that's delineated on the ground, and we incorporated some of the buffer zones that's called for in the Town of Chelmsford wetland bylaw. And again, I know wetlands typically isn't the purview of the zoning board, but it came up quite a bit, and so we added those buffer zones to the plan. And I should point out that through the local wetland bylaw, they have a 25-foot no disturb zone, which you can't enter into the 25-foot from the delineated wetland. They have a 30-foot no impervious zone. You're not allowed to put a driveway or any type of impervious area within 30 feet of a wetland. And additionally, they have a 50-foot no structure zone. You can't put a house, a garage, or any type of structure within 50 feet of that. And so what we did show on the plan were those corresponding buffer zones, the 100-foot buffer zone, and show that the house, as it's located on this plan, as we submitted to you, could certainly meet those offsets. One other thing I did, Mr. Chair, is at the last meeting, or the first meeting, there was some talk about this lot being an undersized lot. What I did was I took the assessors, the GIS maps, I took the 8 abutting properties that touched this, the direct abutters, and averaged their lot sizes. And their lot sizes averaged to be 1.01 acres. Again, the 8 properties that touched this. Our property is 1.72 acres in size. Additionally, I went on and I took the 300-foot abutters list that's included as what we have to put, a 300-foot abutters list, certified list, and I averaged the lot areas for all 30 properties. Actually, it's 28 properties. 2 of them are right-of-ways owned by the town. I did not add those into the list because it would kind of skew it. And it brings the average down to 0.9 acres. And again, we're at 1.72 acres. So when we talk about an undersized lot, the lot area contained within this lot is actually more than the surrounding average. And I know there's probably a lot of people here that want to speak. I just would like to reiterate, I kind of opened the last meeting by saying we are not creating any lot lines here. We're not adding a lot line, moving a lot line. This is all lines of existing ownership. And we're simply here asking for a variance to build a single-family home in a single-family residential district, but we do need some zoning relief for lot width and lot frontage. So I know I was kind of brief. I did bring 12, 11 now. One of them got beat up in the field. Hard copies of that plan. I don't want to cause a commotion, Mr. Chair, but if anybody, I know there's a bunch of people in the audience here for this, but if it helps them to see the plan, I do have copies.
What, is that 6/1/2018 is the last revision?
6/1/2018, correct.
Okay, so I have a copy of that.
But if anybody from the board would want one, I have some here.
Can I get one?
Take a new one now.
Why not a fresh one?
Mr. Chair, is it okay if I pass these out? I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, if someone would like to look at one, feel free.
I think it's like. Oh, that's right. Long drive. That's right. Okay.
And again, Mr. Chair, I know I was brief, but that's kind of where we're at. And I would ask the board whether there's any other questions.
Did you look more into the land court matter?
I did not.
Okay.
Jerry, do you have any questions?
No. Nope.
Charlie?
No, I think by the sidewalk, I saw everything.
Any further questions, Steve?
Nope.
So I'm going to open this up to the audience. I know there's a lot of people here very interested in this. If you could limit your comments to things that have not already been talked about, it would be very helpful. We understand there's concerns from a lot of the neighbors for this, so we'll try to work through that.
Todd Comans, 34 Abbott Lane. I'm speaking on behalf of the petitioners from the last meeting, 60 petitioners the last meeting. And we have continued our effort to oppose this variance. We've prepared a memorandum that outlines Massachusetts state's law, as well as the town of Chelmsford bylaws and the nonconformity of this lot. We make the assertion that this lot does not meet the requirements for a the dimensional requirements for a conventional front lot, specifically frontage, that there are no provisions in the bylaw to relax the frontage requirement, and therefore the lot might be reconsidered as a rear lot. As a rear lot, the lot does not meet the 80,000 square feet dimensional requirement. As far as the square footage of the lot that was quoted by Brian, Mr. Malisi, the square footage that is in the access road is actually not allowed to be counted because it's less than 100 feet wide. And the remaining lot is somewhere around 1.5 or 1.6 acres, 1.6 acres, well below the 80,000 square foot requirement of a rear lot. In addition, this lot does not meet the requirement of a rear lot for a minimum width of 50 feet, which the access road is only 40. And I have here somewhere over 20 signed copies of this memorandum for submission to the board. I also have copies of the memorandum for the members of the board that are unsigned. So that's the brief summary. You asked me to be brief.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we believe that this property does not conform to the bylaws, and there are no provisions for granting a variance for this lot.
Thank you.
These
Yep.
are signed copies.
I'll
I
pass
can
those up.
provide an electronic copy as well. These are copies that you can distribute amongst yourselves that are unsigned.
I'm going to enter this into the record electronically. Should I read it?
We were requested to have you read it formally into the record when we sought advice. We, just quick vote note, but you'll mention it in that, so I'll
Could
just
I
let
have
you
your
go
name and
forward.
address? sir?
David Comans, 33 Abbott Lane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a letter to the Town of Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals regarding EJH Incorporated, Bentley Lane, Assessors Map 70, lots 311 through 9, and 311-25. Memorandum in opposition to an application for a variance. Chairman of the board and board members, I'm submitting this memorandum in opposition to the application for a variance relative to 0 Bentley Lane, parcel 70-311-9 and 70-311-25. And to any zoning variances being granted, I believe most residents of Bentley Lane, Long Meadow Road, Abbott Lane support this opposition but leave it to those residents to speak for themselves. I submit this property does not qualify for a variance based on Massachusetts general law and the bylaws. Following conclusions can be made. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 10 states that in part, the permit granting authority shall have the power to grant a variance from the terms of applicable zoning ordinance or bylaw where such a permit granting authority specifically finds that owing to circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, a literal enforcement of the provisions of this ordinance or bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or to the appellant, and that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance or bylaw. Emphasis added. I submit that according to the bylaw of the town of Chelmsford, the Bentley Lane property does not conform to the dimensional requirements established in section 195-9, conformity required, reduction of dimensional requirements. A, per section 195-9 and attachment 2, table of dimensional requirements, the Bentley Lane property does not have the required 150 foot of frontage required for a conforming RB zoned front lot. Section 195-9, conformity required reduction of dimensional requirements states which dimensional requirements and by what percentage the bylaws permit allow the zoning board to grant variances for by special permit. A, subsection B states that the zoning board is allowed to reduce the dimensional requirements for the front side and rear yard by no more than 20%. These dimensional requirements are summarized in attachment 2, table of dimensional requirements. According to the section 195 attachment 6, figure 1, building and lot placement diagram, the front side and rear yard dimensional requirements specify setback dimensions from the front, side, and rear property respectively. Frontage is identified as a dimension independent of the front, side, and rear yard setbacks in both table of dimensional requirements and in the building and lot placement diagram. The permitted 20% reduction to the front side, rear side setback requirements does not allow for the reduction of the required frontage of 150 feet for the RB zoned Bentley Lane property. E, subsection B also states that such reduction in dimensional requirements is conditional. The zoning board can grant the reduction if the zoning board of appeals finds that the reduction meets the following criteria. 4 criteria are listed, including 2, adjacent properties would not be adversely affected. Given the direct dependence of an existing area homes on Bentley Lane, property for the wetland surface drainage that connects segments of these areas' storm drainage systems, it seems unlikely that the zoning board can make such a guarantee. The addition of a third driveway between the existing driveways at 18 Bentley Lane and 20 Bentley Lane is not consistent with area residences. The construction of this third driveway would have an immediate negative and irreversible adverse effect on the market value of the existing properties at 18 Bentley Lane and 20 Bentley Lane, as well as other Bentley Lane properties. The value of all area homes would be negatively impacted by the infringement of the wetlands buffer and loss of habitat for the area, wildlife, by the development of the Bentley Lane property. As noted above, the Bentley Lane property does not conform to the dimensional requirements established in section 195-9 for a conforming front lot. In addition, Bentley Lane property does not comply with the dimensional requirements established in section 195-15 rear lots. A, per section 195-15, rear lots shall be allowed by special permit only if the lot meets all the conditions outlined in subsections A through G are met. The Bentley Lane property does not meet all of these requirements. B, per subsection A, the rear lot must have a minimum area of 80,000 square feet. The Bentley Lane property is only 66,407 square feet. C, per subsection D, the lot width at no point shall be less than 50 feet. The section of lot used for access to Bentley Lane is only 40 feet wide. D, per subsection D, no section of lot with a width of less than 100 feet shall be used to compute the minimum lot area set forth in the subsection. A, i.e. the 80,000 square foot requirement. This excludes the square footage of the lot used for access to Bentley Lane. 4, no other provisions of the Town of Chelmsford bylaw supporting the granting of variance that would allow development of the Bentley Lane property. Therefore, I submit the land in question does not qualify for a variance. Petitioners cannot support, and the board cannot specifically find factors relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography of this property that impacts this property alone. I further suggest that denying this variance does not impose a substantial hardship on the petitioner. Granting the variance certainly permits a very substantial gain. And finally, the substantial gain will come with very substantial detriment to the public good and will substantially derogate, if not nullify, the purpose of the town bylaw. Respectfully, Leon Robert Germanian, 25 Bentley Lane, Chelmsford, Mass.
They're all signed by different people.
Different signatures.
Everyone has a different sign.
We have
20 of
60 of these, or 20 of these?
20 plus.
20 plus.
Want to read them all?
That would really be mean. How's that thing to read?
Signed by.
So I went to the rest in the record as is with the separate signatures and mass. So anyone else would like to comment in favor or in opposition to this application?
Can I trade you an unsigned copy for your signed copy that you had back there?
I have lots of signed copies of the original.
Oh, gotta put them back.
Different
in as well.
signatures.
Yeah, they're different
We need
signatures.
the signature signed by.
Does he need all these signatures?
And they'll be signed by different people. There are.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this point.
Motion to close?
Second? Nancy?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Public hearing is closed. We're done taking testimony. I think we should take this up this evening and decide what to do with it. I'm going to have to read anything else. Does anyone have any thoughts on it?
As far as the variance goes, what the hardship that was defined in the meeting last time was a financial hardship?
I believe that would be the gist of it. It's,
And that doesn't qualify for a variance, correct? You can't just be limiting the financial gain of,
you can have a hardship that is financial. The question
The
is.
statute says financial or otherwise.
Yeah.
The hardship just has to relate to those aspects of the statute having to do with lot shape, soil conditions, or topography. So the fact that it's a financial hardship is fine, as long as that hardship relates to lot shape, soil conditions, and topography.
But I think the point brought up in the letter mentions the frontage, which is a bit of a challenge to have a lot that does not have sufficient frontage. I don't think we have the authority to grant a variance to a piece of land that does not have sufficient frontage.
So you have seen several of this type of application before you recently. There's been discussion as to whether or not the board actually has any authority to grant a variance for a lack of frontage or for a deficiency in lot area. And we had gone through the case law on that, and there's no absolute prohibition on a board granting a variance. However, the case law is slim to none as to whether or not that's ever been allowed. Again, because it has to relate to the lot shape, soil conditions, or topography, it's difficult to show how a lack of frontage can relate to one of those issues. So if you can find a connection between lot shape, topography, or soil conditions and the reason they don't have sufficient frontage, then theoretically a variance could be properly issued. But if you can't make that nexus, then there's no way you can issue a variance.
I have another question. The easement area for the driveway access, does that count? It doesn't count as part of the lot for area based on the narrow width. Does that count as part of the shape of the lot, that easement?
If it's part of the lot, then yes, it counts as part of the lot shape.
easement areas count as part of the lot?
Well, it's land claim, it's a right of way.
So
If it's a
the-
right
the
of
lot
way.
is now owned in common, which means that this lot is of the shape it is. It has the easement attached to it by,
I missed that part of this discussion. I wasn't at the last hearing, so what are the issues with regards to the ownership of that?
well, we didn't get a
Portion of the
a
roadway.
firm
Who owns
response
it?
from land court. It's under agreement, Brian, with, as two separate parcels, as a single parcel?
The trust that owns the property went
Brian.
through.
Brian, you'll have to reopen the public hearing. if
Yeah,
you're gonna
I'm
get-
not supposed to say, I think so.
Oh, just to take five, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna get information from the applicant, you have to reopen the public hearing.
I think, I'd like a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second,
I second it.
all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
For the record, Brian Melissa with Whitman Bingham. The trust that owns the property had gone and sought legal counsel, and they went through the land court that it is two parcels of property that now are under common ownership, and so they merge. And so, we call it an access area, but it really becomes one lot. But we're looking at that as one lot. And again, at the initial public hearing, we kind of went over the three criteria. And again, in my mind, and in my client's mind, it's a perfect lot shape issue. I mean, the lot shape is such that we can have legal frontage. We don't have the required amount of frontage. And so we're here asking for that relief.
So as one lot, it
With the
would,
hint.
Did you wanna close the public hearing again, Brian, or?
I probably should have been quicker.
Since you reopened the public hearing, Todd Combs, 34 Abbott Lane, I just want to remind you of the Massachusetts state law that even if you do grant a variance due to hardship, you can't do so without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating the intent or purpose of such ordinance or bylaw.
So that's the second part of the
So
statute?
that's the second part, and I
think-
would submit that you cannot do that.
I think you probably don't need to get to that second part until you make a determination on the first part, whether or not there is actual hardship
Right.
related to the statutory conditions.
Just want to remind the board, again, at the initial hearing, we went over that. And that, building a single-family home on a single-family lot in a single-family residentially zoned area certainly isn't going to subrogate or derogate from the neighborhood. It's a bunch of single-family homes, it's one more single-family home. The driveways, I would disagree with the comments made that driveway is going to lower the property values on either side. It's going to be a driveway to a single-family home. It's not going to lower anybody's property value.
Carol Comans, 34 Abbott Lane. I would just like to go on the record that we need to stay with facts and not opinions at this point. Thank you. On how this is going to affect our property.
Gate is open.
Andy Thompson, 24 Long Meadow Road, and a butter, and I can guarantee you that the value of my property will go down if this variance is granted. The reason I picked my house, not because it's a great house, it needs a lot of work. All new windows, needs a new furnace. It was because of that beautiful nature behind. When I bought it, I was told that it would never get built on. I can guarantee you the property value of my home will go down if it's built on.
And that's why we're not open on the public hearing.
Open a can of worms. John Skinner, 32 Abbott Lane. I just want to make a comment because I heard this last meeting and I hit it again here where you're talking about these two contiguous lots being considered one. I really have a difficult time with that because I believe if I were to offer him, $500,000 for that front lot, he could sell it to me. And he could keep the back lot. So they are two separate lots. I don't really know how you can say they're one lot when they're actually two separate lots that can be sold separately.
Are they recorded?
I don't know if it's a big
Honestly,
deal or not, but
I'm not sure you're right, sir. I'm not sure you're wrong.
yeah,
But when a property comes together, It's conjoined by common ownership.
Well,
You could theoretically sell it, but you couldn't sell it as a building lot. Would that be a fair
yeah, I mean, but what if one of the neighbors wanted to buy it just to make his yard bigger? Couldn't he buy it?
So it retains a separate legal identity,
Yeah,
but for zoning purposes, they merge into a single lot.
well,
So
maybe they do.
Presuming you had one lot, presuming this particular piece of property was able to make that lot conforming, and they sold it off to somebody else, you wouldn't be able to do anything with the second lot.
Unless
because-
another neighbor wanted to buy it, right?
No, you wouldn't be able to do anything with that second lot because it would owe whatever it could grant to the first lot to make it more conforming.
Okay.
So even though you can legally sell it, you're restricted as to what you can do with that other lot once the two come into common ownership.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Motion to close the public hearing. One more.
Karen Christensen, 66 Carlisle Street. I have a question. Can you tell me the size of the lot that this house will be built on?
It would be.
Like, how is this being divided? How many acres are there now?
1.52.
Not being divided.
It's
It's an existing lot.
It's an existing lot.
It's over an
Existing
acre.
lot, but you're putting a second house
It's
on it.
one- No, we're putting one house on it.
You're putting one house?
Yeah, it's
One
an
house.
existing undeveloped
It's
lot.
it's an acre and a half plus, I think you recalculated it, but there's a drawing here, the original one was 1.5 acres.
So it already has an existing house and you're,
No,
no?
there's
No house.
nothing there.
What's
There's a drawing
being
right
shown
there.
is a proposed structure.
Okay, thank you.
Leo Rallowitz, 18 Bentley Lane. We've heard a lot of things about the figures and about how it fits the community. Everybody in that community has a 200-foot frontage, which was the law back then, and most of them, back then, the zoning law was a half-acre parcel. So when you hear the figures come up to 0.9, 0.8, they weren't required. You needed 200-foot frontage back then. All of them have that. On Bentley Lane and Long Meadow, I'm not sure because Abbott Lane was built at a later time, much later time, after Pine Hills Corporation went bankrupt. When you say it fits a community, how, when everybody can see their neighbor out their front window, and now several of them are going to be able to see a neighbor out their back window. And that's not the way the community was set up. So I think that argument doesn't float. I don't know, you walked it. I don't know anybody that would want to buy a house there. Never mind go through all the excavation and everything else. And if you've got those buffer zones up against the wetlands, how is an excavator not going to infringe on that? They don't drop down from the sky and dig the hole, and if you've ever been to a house site, they generally got to go left and right of the whole place quite a bit. Never mind the waterproofing the guy would probably need to install. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Carol Comans, 34 Abbott Lane. Just I want to make one comment. On Concord Road, Dr. Clarity's property was subdivided and a home was built back there. Hold that thought. If you have a decent piece of property in Chelmsford right now and you put it up for sale, it's gone within 5 days, if it even goes 5 days. A variance was approved for a house to be built on Concord Road behind Dr. Clarity's home. It is now 86 days on the market. Why? Because it butts up to wetlands. It's behind somebody else's house. Please, 60 people in this community want to save our neighborhood. It would be a financial hardship to the 7 homes that abut that property if they were to put it on the market. All those homes were built with bathrooms in the back. Who in their right mind wants to look out their bathroom and know their neighbor is looking in at them? Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to close?
I'm gonna ask for a motion to close the public hearing once again.
Second.
Second by Steve. All in favor? No,
I have a question.
certainly.
Looking at the guest map of the town and the neighborhood, is there any history as to why this particular lot was designed the way it is? Why that particular block of land was set up and not?
So,
Back then, they needed
what the gentleman said
septic.
is a wooden perk, which means when they had septic systems, you couldn't build there. You couldn't get the septic system to fit on the lot. Now that we have sewer, we don't need that, so it would not be required to perk. It's still a very difficult lot, obviously. I think the stumbling point for me is the frontage. I don't think we have the right to grant a variance for the frontage.
Where we ended before we reopened the hearing was to define if this was a hardship. I believe that's where the first step before moving on to.
Correct. Well, you're still trying to identify whether or not there is a hardship and whether that hardship relates to the statutory grounds that allow you to grant a variance.
Which is
So-
topography, lot shape, which you have an argument with lot shape, but not a good one.
It's a lot shape because of an easement.
I think the problem is granting the frontage is not part of our purview. I don't think we have the right to grant frontage. If it's a rear lot, we would have that ability.
We also have the right to deny.
I think we
Whether
have the
we
right.
have a right to grant or not, we also have a right to deny. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Because it doesn't meet
Like a motion, Jerry.
Pardon me?
Sounds like a motion.
I do. I have a motion to deny the variance.
So the lack of
Anybody
a hardship,
second?
is that?
Pardon me?
Brian, I think you're better off having your motion be in the affirmative of a motion to grant the variance and see if you get the requisite votes necessary.
I'm comfortable with that.
What does that take as for a majority? Is
It's
it
a supermajority. It needs to be at least 4-1.
Okay.
And we have 5 voting, which is myself,
Mhm.
Steve, Charlie, Mark, and Nancy? Or Jerry? Nancy.
I'm voting. I think. Well, I don't know. I was here last time with the, I think it was
You
5.
weren't here,
And I
right?
watched the video.
So then
So he
entitles you
mullins
to
thing.
vote on it.
Did you sign the statement?
I didn't get a statement. That means I'm not voting.
Yeah, I
can
have
watch
to
the
have
video
it
to come
back
to-
signed by you stating that and collected with the clerk prior to the
Yep.
vote.
Okay, so I'm not voting.
You're not voting.
Right.
So it's
That's
myself,
Jerry.
Charlie, Mark, Jerry, and Nancy.
Yep.
And if I could get a motion to approve the variance as shown.
I make the motion to approve the variance as shown.
I have a second.
Hey, before I second it, Paul, can we change our minds after we
You can
vote?
absolutely vote no, even though you seconded. yes.
Okay, I will second Jerry's motion to approve.
All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous opposition?
Thank you, thank you.
It's challenging.
It's challenging, right. Thank you, Brian.
So,
Thank you for your time.
I watched that whole video for nothing.
Apparently. That was a long video.
What?
Is that, well, is that your
Did
advice
what?
for
Part of the
every
day. I watched this whole thing
application?
for
Do
nothing.
we
It was
wanna
good
look
experience.
to an approval?
You get to see all that blue, that beautiful green.
I think it's
No, not the
more
sidewalk.
straightforward and clear.
Watching the video.
Video?
Like
I watched
Going in
it
the negative,
too. You weren't
it can
alone.
create confusion.
Yeah.
The 2.5 hours or whatever it was.
It could have been worse if it been here.
Brian,
Good luck.
Brian, Chair.
There you go. We got a long agenda today.
Yeah, I know.
Do it, Brian, do it.
Do it.
Assert your authority.
We've had a busy night. We have a new hearing 27 Stonehill Road. Richard Nardone is seeking a variance under 195-9 conformity to construct a new 840-square-foot detached garage on a conforming lot that will encroach the side setback. Mr. Nardone?
Good evening. I'm
Good
Richard
evening.
Nardone, 27 Stone.
Nardone, my apologies.
No problem at all. 27 Stonehill Road in North Chelmsford. Yes, what I decided to do is to put up a detached garage. The difficulty that we're running into is the shape of the lot, specifically on the right-hand side. If I may point you right here, you'll see that it goes in at an angle. And any garage, detached garage, to have suitable space between the house and the garage requires either pulling that garage substantially forward of the house or abutting the corners of the garage to the house almost in order to get the setback on the back of the house. I've got a little diagram that adds to that one that I hope will make it a little clearer.
What's the side setback, 25?
The side setback is 25 feet. There's an existing shed there that's right here. That's about a 12 by 12. That has the required 10-foot setback. That shed will be relocated to the back section of the property. What I did here is I did a blow up of this section and put the proposed garage in blue. I added this line, which is the 25-foot setback line. What happens is if you take this garage and slide it down, up, or any way, try to get the whole thing inside of the line, the only way you can do it really is as an attached garage to the house. Okay? So to keep it simple, I think the hardship is clearly the shape of the lot and the jog. If you see the full plot plan, that lane goes back substantially further. I think you'll see it on the left. Yeah, it goes back substantially. So it's a question of two things. This jog, had that jog been straight, had this been straight between here and here, there would be no issue with the setback. It would clearly made the amount. The second thing is the placement of the house, which was put in a position, I think, for ease of the builder because of ledge on the left-hand side of the house. And we know there's ledge there because when the sewer was put in, they had to blast. So clearly, the house could have been positioned in such a way to easily allow the addition of a garage on either side had they chose not to put it plop in the middle where they did. Okay, but the builder back in 1976, you know, I can't read his mind. I'm sure they did the most practical and economical thing in terms of building out the development. So that is, those are the two hardships to the land, if you will. So what we're seeking is a variance simply to be able to put this garage centered on the driveway. Now, I also included in the package some photographs that I took of the property along with the narrative. And those photographs maybe help illustrate a bit what I'm talking about. This one simply shows, and I think there's one in your package, if you come in straight up the driveway, one would expect to come into approximately the middle of the garage, right, as opposed to one side of the garage or the other. Because trying to back out of a garage that isn't centered on a driveway can be difficult. It's actually made more difficult in our case because there's the back entranceway, the stairs on the back deck, and there's a corresponding front entranceway with a set of brick stairs. So if the garage were pushed over against the house, I don't know how you back out of that stall of the garage without either, I don't know, breaking up the brick stairway, riding up the thing, you know. So that's one of the considerations, is to get the garage in the middle of the driveway as much as possible. Also, it's the most sense aesthetically, and I know you guys don't vote on aesthetics, but it would just seem to be common sense that you'd want to drive straight up your driveway into your garage, particularly where it's an existing driveway in great shape. That is, I took my stab at kind of Photoshop on the computer, and I apologize for the crudeness of it, but it's an approximate representation of how the garage would be sited into the end of the driveway. Anybody have questions on that? I think it's fairly straightforward. What I did is I did approach my neighbors on both sides, and there were no concerns from any of the 21 abutters to the 300 foot. I had much encouragement and support for putting up the garage. I also have 2 letters which I'd like to submit from the side abutter where the variance is being requested.
Number 29?
Yes, that's the Lynch family, and also from the Duffy family across the street, who actually look out of their living room and into my driveway. Mark and Melissa Duffy, and I asked if you could do that into the record.
Certainly. I'll read those in now, and I'll read the rest of the letters, and I'll hope they're short. This is from Lawrence and Kathleen Lynch, 25 Stone Hill Road, Chelmsford Board of Appeals. Good evening. My wife and I are Richard's neighbors and abutters. We live at 25 Stone Hill Road. We understand Richard would like to build a garage and needs a variance on the side setback guidelines. We have no objections to his plans. Lawrence M. Lynch and Kathleen M. Lynch. Very wise to approach your neighbors early, sir. Chelmsford Board of Appeals. Members of the Board of Appeals, please consider this letter my support for a variance being requested by my neighbor Richard Nardone of 27 Stonehill Road, North Chelmsford. I live directly across the street from Rich for over 20 years. The home I currently live in was granted a similar variance to the previous owner, and I believe Rich's request is almost the same criteria. Rich takes great pride in keeping his property immaculate, and I'm sure the garage will be consistent with his well-kept home. Thank you, Mark A. Duffy, 24 Stonehill Road. I have letters from the town I'm going to read in, and then we'll see if there are any concerns or questions from the audience.
I also have some additional information for you, but
We
please
can
go
get through
ahead
that
and
if
do
you
that.
like.
It's up to you.
Go ahead.
Okay, as Mark Duffy stated that they had been granted a variance, I went and saw Colleen today, and she, with her great assistance, was able to find through the archives a record of it. And in fact, quite interestingly, this is, and I'll submit, I think you have copies of this, or I can provide these
You can submit
to you
it.
for copies. A copy of Mark's plot plan. Here's the street, so I'm on this side of the street, and he is here. The predecessor, the Reynolds family, Richard and, can't remember her name, Mary Reynolds, added a breezeway and garage. They, interestingly enough, had no hardship in terms of the shape of the lot. What they were was just simply too close to the lot line. So this board, or your predecessors to this board, did grant a variance to allow them to go to 18 feet from the zone. And interestingly, I'll read this to you, but the board voted to grant with unanimous vote. In the opinion of the board, there was substantial hardship because of the placement of the house on the property, which is a similar hardship that I'm saying. This will enhance the area and will not derogate from the intent of the purpose of the zoning bylaws. And it was voted and approved unanimously, and I'd like to submit these 2 documents as well.
Thank you.
And the final thing, which is just incidental, is that when you actually look at it on the right-hand side, by moving the shed to the rear of the property and moving the back line of the shed moves in to it, because it goes from 10 feet to 25 feet in, essentially, between myself and Lynch, we pick up an additional 12 feet on average of green space. So it actually enhances the green space buffer between the two properties. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, and I know you want to read those in, so I'll...
Yeah, I'll read these in, and then we'll go to the question period. This is from Fire Prevention, 27 Stonehill Road. Richard Nardone is seeking variance under 195-9 conformity to construct a new 840-square-foot detached garage on a conforming lot that will encroach on the side setback. Fire Protection has no concerns. 27 Stonehill Road, Richard Nardone is seeking variance under 195-9 conformity. Building has no concerns. 27 Stonehill Road, Richard Nardone is seeking a variance under 195-9. Engineering has no concerns. 27 Stonehill Road, Richard Nardone is seeking a variance under 195-9. Water has no concerns. And 27 Stonehill Road, Richard Nardone is seeking a variance under 195-9. Board of Health has no concerns. We'll make those part of the record. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
It looks like you have one garage, garage already, that's a one-car.
No, that's just a 12-by-12 garden shed.
No, he's talking about the garage on the house.
You mean the garage in the house? Yes, yes.
So that's a one-car garage?
That's a one-car garage, and given that it's a small house, small split, that, our plan is to eliminate that garage
Oh, I see.
completely. And just use it for other storage for the house.
The
Remember, it's a split entry, so there is no large basement storage area. You're restricted to what you can squirrel away in closets and whatever. So that will become the storage, the room. Our intent is to remove that garage door to face that, consistent with the rest of the house, and probably one window in there. And that door behind it is the rear entry to the house. If I may point it out right here. That is basically a little mudroom. It's about 9 feet wide, and I would say 12 to 14 feet long. And it goes towards the center of the house, towards the center stairway going up to the main floor. Typical split or raised ranch.
Any other questions from the board, Mr. Nardone? I'm going to open this up to concerns or comments from the audience, if there are any. Seeing none.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
Second?
Second.
Second by Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
He has happy neighbors and definitely has a lot topography issue.
I would say it's a textbook variance, and I'd like to make a motion to grant the variance for 27 Stonehill Road.
I second that.
Any discussion regarding that? Seeing none, it will be voting myself, Steve, Charlie, Mark, and Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck with it.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you, Colleen, for all your assistance.
No problem.
Much appreciated.
Moving along, we have 16 Russell Road, Barbara Madden. She is seeking a special permit under 195-8E2 to construct a new 26 by 48 dwelling with a 5-foot by 8-foot dormer on the front to replace a non-conforming structure, lot area, frontage, front setback, which will increase the square footage over the 10% allowable. So we're really at the 10% requirement. The dimensional requirements are acceptable.
Correct.
Good evening.
Hi. I'm Barbara Madden. I live at 16 Russell Road. This property's been in my family for 75 years. I'm proposing to take down the house that's there, take out that foundation, it's a crawl space, move it over a little bit, and bring in a modular. This is the home I want to retire in.
There's a modular home on a new foundation.
Yes, on a new crawl space foundation.
Very good.
I can't figure out what was there and what's going.
This is the
Both? Oh, how'd you figure that out so fast? The setbacks are fine.
Existing
What a
non-conforming.
dormer
so-
means.
The frontage is 125, the front yard is 20, side yard is 12. Oh, it's RC. The rear yard is 20.
Existing house.
Yeah, it's a,
They have the front setback. They have the side setback. They have the rear. Yeah, so it's just the 10% increase in
It's,
square footage.
the existing house has a 6-inch side setback? Is that, that's the existing, not the proposed?
Yeah, that's the existing.
So your existing
She's
house
moving it.
is
She's
6
resizing
inches
a lot.
off.
Really right on it.
She's
So it's really quite an improvement
So I
of
wanna
of
move
the
it over
overall
for that
structure
reason.
anyway.
Exactly.
See how
oh, I
this
see,
one
yeah,
goes all
yeah.
the way over.
Right to the property line.
Now this, her new one, she's bringing it
Right,
back
I
in.
got it.
Yep.
I got it now.
Unfortunately, she's gonna reduce her frontage.
Beautiful lot, incidentally. That's beautiful.
It is, thank you.
Yeah, but is that still within the, is that within the means or not?
I think so.
I'm going to read the letters in, if we can ponder this. If there are any other questions, I'll move this along. 16 Russell Road, Barbara Madden is seeking a special permit under 195-8E2 to construct a new 26 by 48 dwelling with a 5 by 8 dormer at the front to replace a non-conforming structure, lot area, frontage, front setback, which will increase the square footage over the 10% allowable. Fire prevention has no concerns, and no letter?
So she's spreading, she's
Wow.
She's moving the front door from here.
16 Russell Road, Barbara Madden is seeking a special permit under 195-8E. The building department has no concerns.
I got that.
So that's
I
what she's
never
asking for.
Is there any question about the denial letter with that, Mark?
Excuse
Got a problem? It says I never saw.
Yeah, I never wrote a denial letter. Marty Allen, the other inspector, saw it and wrote the denial letter.
Okay, so one was written, you just didn't, okay.
So don't ask me any technical questions, is what it comes down to.
I got it. 16 Russell Road, Barbara Madden is seeking a special permit under 195-8E2. Board of Health has no concerns. 16 Russell Road, Barbara Madden is seeking a special permit under 195-8E2. The Water Department has no concerns. 16 Russell Road, Barbara Madden is seeking a special permit under 195-8E2. Engineering has a note. Applicant must contact the sewer department to file a sewer permit for all work done on the old and new sewer service. A road opening permit may be required for work within the right-of-way. That is it for letters. Does the board have any further questions?
Do we know what the square footage before and after is? Is that?
Must.
Right now, I believe I'm 1,032. You mean of the home, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now, I believe I'm at 1,032, and I'm looking for 1,248.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
you're
like-
A 30% increase.
And just to clarify, the 10% is the threshold as to whether or not they have to come see you at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So the fact that, an application on a non-conforming structure is over the 10%, really is significant to nothing other than the fact that they need a special permit rather than just a building permit.
And not a variance either. So we do not have a hardship issue.
Correct.
Any further questions from the board? Take this out into the audience. If someone has questions or concerns, please approach the podium. State your name and address. Seeing none.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
I'd like to second the motion.
Seconded by Steve. All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion to approve 16 Russell Road, special permit under 195-8E2 for the construction of the new dwelling.
Second that.
Any discussion regarding this? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Good at that, yeah.
Quick. It's okay. I can play. Yeah, I'll do that.
Our next application is 28 Diamond Street. Matthew and Allison Horner. They're seeking a special permit under 195-8E2. construct a new 5x12 breezeway and a 24x24 garage addition to a non-conforming structure, lot area, front and side setback, which will increase the square footage over the 20% allowable. And that's an RB zone, that's why that's gone to 20%?
The percentage, Brian, the percentage has nothing to do with the zone. Percentage has to do with the square footage of the lot.
So they have a lot size that allows them a 20% increase before coming to the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Just asking technical questions.
That was the
Oh, right, I
last one.
forgot, I'm sorry.
No, that was the last one.
That was the previous house. We can ask about this one.
I don't want to get flagged.
Was that it, Colleen, right here?
I don't know what you're looking at.
What was this?
It's
Oh,
Bentley
Oh.
Lane.
Good evening.
What that was.
That's
Good evening, Matthew Horner. I live at 28 Diamond Street with my wife Allison. We're planning to, like you said, construct a 24x24 garage with an attachment of a 5x12 breezeway. This will align with the house and also make it more like the other houses on the street. We are unfortunately limited by the frontage and also the side setback. Currently, the house was built in 1954, around the 1950s, and the frontage and setback restrictions were a little more lax back then, so this has been grandfathered in. So this construction of this garage and breezeway, looking for a variance so we can begin construction.
Thank you.
So it's like 1 foot, 20.
Yeah, 5 feet.
I was looking at the wrong number.
I will read the letters in for 28 Diamond Street. The Board of Health has no concerns. The Water Department has no concerns. The Building Department has no concerns. Engineering has a note. A road opening permit may be required for work within the town's right-of-way. See the Department of Public Works to coordinate. Fire Prevention has no concerns, but did include a letter. To make concern, the Fire Prevention Office finds the following in regards to the proposed addition at 28 Diamond Street. The attached garage shall be outfitted with a hardwired heat detector for each garage bay. In addition, a hardwired smoke and carbon monoxide detector shall be installed within 20 feet of the interior garage door and interconnected to heat detectors in the garage. All detectors shall be installed in accordance with standards contained in 780 CMR. This office would approve of this application with this condition, and I ask the board to make this letter part of their approval process. Dan Kostafis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. And that is it for letters. Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this project, please come forward.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
Second.
That was quick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving right along, I guess. I think we should take this up.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit under 195AE subsection 2 with consideration of all the letters written into.
Second.
Second by Steve. All in favor? Aye.
Good luck with it.
Unanimous?
Thank you for your time.
Speed of light. Moves up to 11 Dunshire Drive, Kim Hobbs, seeking a special permit under 195-8E2 to construct a new 12x12 side addition with a 16x19 deck and a 6-foot by 40-foot farmer's porch addition, and to add a new second level to an existing non-conforming structure. Lot area, frontage, front and side setback, which will increase the square footage over the 30% allowable.
Evening, Mr. Chairman.
Just dimensionally?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kenneth Lanier, Cornerstone Land Consultants, representing the applicant, Ms. Hobbs, who's also with us this evening in the audience. We're applying for a special permit to allow Ms. Hobbs to construct a second-story addition with a 2-foot rear overhang and a 2-foot front overhang, as well as a farmer's porch combined into that overhang in the front of the structure. We are also looking to receive approval for a 12-by-12 addition on the side yard. And we're before you tonight for that addition because we did receive approval from Conservation Tuesday night. There is floodplain on this property. It has an elevation of 104. The darker contour line you can see in the front of the structure as well as in the rear of the structure designates the floodplain elevation at 104. We're also asking for a screened-in porch to be located on the right rear of the structure, and then a deck located on the left rear of the structure, in line with an existing addition that was done centrally off the rear of the house some 20-plus years ago. Pretty simple application. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them at this time.
Colleen, can you blow that up so we can see a little bit there?
Hang on, eat papers.
Could you notice the sweat dripping off my forehead? Is that why I turned these?
Things are heating up.
Is that good enough? I can go more.
I've got a,
Go crazy.
a hard
Lot
copy,
going
Mark?
on.
I'm not sure if you have it, Mr. Chairman. I do have a couple of letters from some abutters to the property as well.
Oh, that would be terrific. We'd like to read
Bring those right up to you. Absolutely.
We haven't done enough reading tonight. If you want to look at those, I don't know if there's a plot plan in there.
Are these all copies of the same thing, or are they?
I think those are sets of plans. Yeah, you're supposed to.
I like no paper myself.
I have a letter addressed to Kim Hobbs. This is to confirm that you contacted me about your hopes to butt an addition on your home at 11 Dunshire Drive, North Chelmsford, Mass. I abut your property on Dunstable Road and do not protest your special permit. I have since received notices from the town because of the wetlands bylaw and would assume you take every precaution to prevent flooding in your area and neighbors close by. I know how much you'll enjoy the additional room in your home and wish you luck with everything. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend the meeting on June 7th. Jean Marie Isnor, 121 Dunstable Road, North Chelmsford. To the Town of Chelmsford Board of Appeals, I am Eric Ruman, am homeowner and resident of 5 Dunshire Drive, North Chelmsford. I'm writing this letter in strong support of the variance special permit for Kim Hobbs, 11 Dunshire Drive, North Chelmsford, Mass, to construct a 12-by-12 side addition with a 16-by-19 deck and a 6-by-40 farmer's porch addition to add a new second level to her existing structure. There are other houses in the neighborhood which have second stories, farmer porches, side rooms, and decks throughout the neighborhood. Adding such improvements to a house would be in keeping with the other houses in the neighborhood. I feel such additions would be an overall benefit to the improvement of the neighborhood and would serve to raise the home value of our home and others in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, I have a conflict with the meeting time. I hope you will strongly consider my letter of support. If you have any questions, I can be reached at Mr. Ruman's email. Sincerely, Eric Ruman. I have a third letter dated June 4th, 2018. James and Jamie Dillon, 16 Dunshire Drive, North Chelmsford, Mass. To whom it may concern, we are writing to inform you that we are unable to attend the Thursday, June 7th, 2018 meeting to support the special permit requested Kim Hobbs has submitted. We live directly across from 11 Dunshire Drive, and our house is in direct view anytime we look out many of our windows. We would like to offer our full support and hope our letter of support is taken into consideration when discussing her special permit request. James and Jamie Dillon. I have a letter for 11 Dunshire Drive with no concerns from the Board of Health. I have a letter with no concerns from the Water Department. I also have another copy of Mr. Dillon, Mr. Lumen, and Mrs. Isnor's letter. I have a letter from engineering. The addition will be over the sewer service. Sewer permit is required for work on the sewer system. Surveyor stamps required on the plan. have a duplicate of that. Same address. So that is it for my letters.
You didn't read Mark's?
I did not see Mark's in the pile.
Mark's is attached to the plan with a stamp, because he made the same comment.
Mark, have any concerns?
My concern was the plan wasn't stamped, but now my letters of concern is with the stamped plan, so I guess everything
So we
goes
have a
away.
stamp plan with your letter, but we don't know exactly what it is.
It was standing up and it was taller than everything else.
Is any of those, were those plans stamped that you guys did? They're the only one that I have. No, I have one here. These are just house plans.
That's not planned.
One more letter from the building department. Site plan not stamped. I have a copy of the site plan that is stamped. Takes care of that problem.
Government at its best.
Are there any questions from the board at this point?
What is the required side setback?
This is
25.
It's 25.
25?
RB?
Correct.
Down to 9.9. That's significant. And you're going down to 9.9 on that?
That is
part,
correct, Mr. Mendez, yes. And the reason being for that side addition as opposed to somewhere else located on the property is strictly because the remaining portion of the property is in the floodplain. So we felt it best to keep that addition to the side yard, and it's an extension of the existing kitchen, which is significantly smaller inside the existing dwelling.
Hey, Brian, I just had a question for him.
Go for it.
I have a question about the wetlands.
We're not
It's-
granting a variance for the side setback. We're just doing a special permit to increase the square footage over the 30% allowable. So pre-existing non-conforming, we're not granting a side setback variance. We're not granting a variance, we're granting a special permit.
I was wondering how that was a special permit, okay.
Because
So
it's non-conforming.
It's already at 9.9 from the,
No, I think it's, the original footprint was 21.7,
That is correct, sir.
So it'll be reduced to 9, but we're not approving or disproving that. We have nothing to do with that. That's allowed by right.
to become more non-conforming?
With a
Yeah.
special
Increase
permit.
the non-conformity. That would require relief. If they're increasing the nature of the non-conformity,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
Well, what we are here tonight for a special permit.
You can do that through a special permit. As long as it was an existing nonconformity, and you're just increasing the nonconformity, you can do that through the special permit.
And it's still, it's not a
If
variance.
it was conforming onto that setback and they wanted to create a new nonconformity,
Then you need a variance. Well, once you get past the 20%.
I actually have to look at the bylaw. I think our bylaw would allow that by a special permit as well.
Yeah.
On a nonconforming lot.
Mark concurs. Nice to have backup. So we are in good shape with that. That's good to know.
Just it wasn't cited.
But yes, it will be down to 9 feet. Now, your neighbor to the left, is he one of the?
He is not one of the letters provided. I believe that the applicant spoke with the neighbor. They were not in opposition.
They're not here this evening.
But they are not here this evening.
Okay. I mean, we don't assume he is if he's not here, or he certainly could have sent an email or a letter saying he was, so we'll take that at
He would have
face
gotten in
value, I
touch with
think.
us if he was.
I know the road up there is, it's tight. I know the lots are small and
Silence
it's
is
a tight
silence.
neighborhood. Seeing we've done there, why don't we go out and see if there's any questions or concerns from the audience this evening? Charlie?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing, Brian.
Second.
Second by Steve. All in favor?
It was a little, almost stuttered.
Taking some, Steve? I'd like to make a motion, to approve the special permit for 11 Downshire under Article 195-8E subsection 2, to construct a new addition, a deck, and a farmer's porch, with consideration of all the letters read into record.
I'll second that.
Second by Mark. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Wonderful, thank you very much, have a great evening.
That was haphazard, man. I don't know what that was. You went back 2 weeks on that. Moving right along. Unless I lost my agenda. Agenda here? Our next application is 11 Hope Street. Patrick Flaherty is seeking special permits under 195-82 and 195-82 floodplain to construct a new 20 by 40 side addition to an existing non-conforming structure, lot area, rear and side setbacks, in a floodplain which will increase the square footage over the 20% allowable.
Mr. Chair, I made a mistake on that ad. It is not 20 by 40. It is 20 by 24, I believe.
If we're shrinking, does that create we can't get away with it?
No, I don't think that's a problem.
That's not
Right.
right.
we-
I
If you've
advertised
given
bigger.
someone
If it was
notice
bigger,
of a
we'd have to
larger,
re-advertise.
and it's getting smaller, that's fair notice.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Flaherty. Wonderful to
Good
see you
evening, sir.
again.
Thank you, Mr. Reedy. This isn't for myself, this is for Jessica Ortiz, who lives at 11 Hope Street, and she's here with her mother tonight. This is a lot in North Chelmsford, up off of Tingsboro Road as you go out toward the bridge. And I'm not quite sure where that is, but
I'm looking it up now. Give me a second.
Hypothetically.
but it looks good.
Nice picture.
Anyway,
There you go.
the house was built in 1942. It's been there a long time. You can see it there outlined, and there's to the rear up on Missions is a condominium complex, and it's a 15,000 square foot lot. It's in the floodplain, as everything is up there. The floodplain elevation is 104 all over that area. And this existing foundation on the house is just a little over 104, 104.2. So we're proposing to put a 20 by 24 foot addition on, and we're going to put it on concrete piers because we don't want to fill in any area in the wetland. We don't want to diminish the capacity, the storage capacity. We're going to increase it by a few hundred cubic feet, but because we have to have a little space under the
So if you're going to excavate out a certain amount of dirt.
underneath, yeah.
To account for the footing size, is that the anticipation?
Just so we'd have access under there.
Wow.
Just a little, not much, 1.5 feet maybe.
Just enough that if you needed maintenance or such, you could
Yeah.
get under there.
Catch a dead squirrel, stuff like that, you know?
Right, right.
And we're increasing,
Get grossed her out, Pat.
yeah, I've been there. We're increasing the rear yard a bit. It was pretty close. This is a RB district, so it requires a 30-foot rear yard. But the existing house has been there since '42, and this is what we did then, put them close to the lot lines. In general, the elevation of the lot's about 103, and the floodplain's 104. Right around the house, it's maybe 103.5. And we need some relief also because of we have a small lot, so we need some relief for the increase over 20%, I believe.
Yes, sir.
I don't, this is the plot plan I put in. We went to Conservation Tuesday, and I had another plan. We have another plan that we got approved, sitting down here on my,
The colored one.
a little colored one. And what we're going to, there's a driveway coming in, gravel driveway. We're going to keep that. And we're going to try and take care of some of the roof runoff by putting in these Cultec chambers, which are like dry wells, to take care of the stormwater. So Conservation had no problem with the concept, and they approved it Tuesday night. There's, even though it's in floodplain, there's really no wetland in the area. Behind, to the rear of the house, there is a ditched area that can trap water during a rainstorm, but it's not on the state maps as being a wetland. So
Oh, is that where the Cultec chambers go, in that area?
we're going to put them next to the house. I was afraid of water coming off the roof and getting under where the
Undermining the footings.
undermining anything. It's pretty good soil there. Not exactly sand, but close, so. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Flaherty at this time? Seeing none, I'll read the letters. For 11 Hope Street, Patrick Flaherty seeking a special permit. The Board of Health has no concerns. The Water Department has no concerns. The Building Department has just noted that it is a 20 by 24 addition. Engineering has no concerns. Fire Prevention has an attached letter. Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals, ZBA 11 Hope Street, and dear members of the board. This office has reviewed the proposal for an addition at 11 Hope Street and finds the following. The entire home, existing and new construction, shall be equipped with life safety systems as required by 780 CMR 51, standard for new construction. The home shall have hardwired, interconnected smoke, carbon monoxide, and heat detectors in all required locations. 3 copies of the plans that clearly show all required life safety devices shall be submitted to this office as part of the building permit plan review process. This office would approve of the addition with these conditions. I ask that the board make this letter part of their approval process. Respectfully submitted, Dan Kostafis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. And that is all my letters for 11 Hope Street. Are there any questions at this time?
What is the size of the existing house? Square footage?
Let me look here. What the assessor might have.
I'll pull it up.
He's a gross area of 1,600 square feet. And a living area of 1,400. So it's a two-story, it's a small house, but it's two-story.
Right here is your square footage.
8.6, I thought the other one was good.
Oh, it's 0.6.
You could hand sugar out your window to you now. I'm going to open up the questions to the audience. If there's concerns regarding 11 Hope Street.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Denise Parker, 15 Hope Street. I live right next door. This is my daughter. Kind of nice to have her back in the neighborhood. The house had been up for sale in the past. Someone owned it. It hasn't looked as good as it does now. Having said that, I know you don't care about aesthetics, but
Oh, we do.
it does.
Of course we do.
It makes a huge difference. It really does. And the house is very small. They actually downsized to move back to Chelmsford. But like I mentioned, we've been there 30 years. As far as the water goes, it is a springtime issue. And is a flood zone. We've been paying flood insurance for years, but all these storms we've had in the past 30 years, it's never been an issue. Occasionally we'd need the sump pump on, but it's never been,
Right.
like further down Tingsboro Road, how it's flooded across the road, we've never had those issues. So, yeah. And one more note, kind of ironic. Kim Hobbs grew up in that house, and these guys went to school together. So it's really kind of, interesting that they're here together.
I agree.
Back in Chelmsford and raising their families, so pretty cool. So that's it. All right, thank you.
You live on the left side or?
I live, see where it says Glen Parker? Our house is like right there.
We live 5 steps apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, story
You are in
has
favor.
it that house was, I missed it.
You're in favor or against?
Oh, I'm absolutely in favor.
I'm your favorite.
Oh. Well, that's what
I don't even know how many children you
my
have.
other 2 daughters think that now too, but.
I did not say you were the favorite.
Realize that this is being recorded.
I want a call from your sister saying, what?
One of the old stories is 11 Hope Street was part of our property at 15. Because there's really only 3 houses on Hope Street. We're number 15, 11, and 6, I believe. It's kind of strange where these numbers come from, but
I don't know how that
that's
works.
how it is. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Charlie?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Steve. You beat up Mark. All in favor?
I'm already in the all in favor mode.
I think I see the flavor here.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit as submitted, 195-8E, 195-82. We can do that here too, right? Yep. So, motion to
Okay.
approve.
Second.
Second by Steve. All in favor? Aye. Good luck with it.
Okay, thank
Good
you
job,
very
Mom.
much.
You're not allowed to say good.
And favorite. Going downhill from here.
Fast. Can I read? I'm reading your text. Oh, I could make you the treasurer. Can I make a clerk? Can I get a clerk? She wants me to read faster.
I'm happy to read the letters if you like. Want me to keep them over here so you don't mess up the
My moment to shine,
files?
to be honest with you. All right, where are
Make
we?
fire prevention a boilerplate document.
Do you not have it?
What?
Do you not have it? 105 Lock Road, Timothy Bork and Colleen Carriger, excuse me,
Steve Clark.
are seeking a special permit under 195-8E2 to construct a new second level to an existing non-conforming structure, lot area, frontage, setback, corner lot, which will increase the square footage over the 20% allowable. This is the flavor of the day, is it not?
I know, apparently. Good evening, everyone.
Where's your mom?
My name's Colleen Carriger. So we bought his mother's house, which was his grandparents' house. I think it was the 5th house built on Lock Road. And it is a cape, and it's still, I'm not a builder, but it's like the A-shaped cape. And all we're trying to do is put a front porch on and dormer it out. If you know a cape house, we have 1 bathroom. 2 of us cannot live with 1 bathroom. We will kill each other. So that's basically what we're trying to do. Make the upstairs a
kill each
master
other.
suite.
Putting a lot of pressure on the board.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. We need 2 bathrooms. And a walk-in closet. There's no closet space.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's
Money
you.
well spent on a dormer, I think.
Let's not kill each other.
Oh, it's not gonna
Pretty
work for me tonight.
straightforward. Are there any questions from the board for Ms. Carriger?
Chelmsford Vision.
There's your house.
One of those ones, see it?
No, yeah. We're gonna make it a little prettier.
Oh, that's it? I'm going to read the letters while we're looking at that.
Porch, that doesn't do
I can't believe you told me to hurry up. No, I'm really nervous. 105 Lock Road. Chelmsford Center Water has no concerns. The Board of Health has no concerns. Engineering has no concerns. Building has no concerns. Fire prevention has an attached letter. June 7th. Dear members of the board, this office had reviewed the proposal for an addition at 105 Lock Road and finds the following. The entire home, existing and new construction, shall be equipped with life safety systems as required by 780 CMR 51, standard for new construction. The home shall have hardwired, interconnected smoke, carbon monoxide, and heat detectors in all required locations.
3 copies of the plans that clearly show all life safety devices shall be submitted to this office as part of the building permit plan review process. This office would approve of this addition with these conditions, and I ask that the board make this letter part of their approval process. Respectfully submitted, Dan Kostofis, Captain, Chelmsford Fire Department. And that is the end of my letters. Further discussion? Open this up to the audience, which is thinning quickly. Anyone like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application?
Motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we ought to go for the trifecta.
Motion to grant the special permit under 195-82 to construct the second level dormer and the porch.
Second.
Second by Steve. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Good luck with it.
We're good? Thank you.
We're good.
Very happy about my second bathroom.
I wasn't getting in the middle of that.
Let's go. Give me 2 seconds to grab.
Oh, it just bugged out
the one
on
you
me.
want.
But it's his requirement, it's not our requirement to act.
There we go.
So he has to ask us
Just die.
to extend if he wishes to.
I don't know if that's big or not.
They're here tonight. Yeah. So this is 10 and 12 Dulgarian Terrace and 53 Woodbine Street, lot 41, 140-69 Woodbine Street. Greg Haladina for a variance under 195-9 conformity. 1, create 2 non-conforming lots from existing non-conforming lot 53 Woodbine Street and 41-140-69 that will not conform to the requirements of the RB district lot area lot frontage. Subdivide the existing non-conforming lot, 2 houses on one lot, lot 41, 140, 42, 10, and 12 Dulgarian Terrace into 2 lots that will not conform to the requirements of the RB district lot area lot frontage and any other zoning relief that may be deemed necessary.
Good evening. My name is Greg Haladina, 56 Central Square. I'm here on behalf of the applicant and the property owner, Stephen Dulgarian, who is with me in the front row. And we are asking for zoning relief to clean up several longstanding problems that have existed on land that Mr. Dulgarian's family owns on Woodbine Street and the Dulgarian Terrace private way. It's a little confusing, and I'm going to go low-tech here and show you a plan I have with some colored sketches, which I didn't get to put on
Love
disc.
low-tech.
But that's why I have the
Low-tech's good.
I've got it zoomed and I can pan around if you want to point.
And this is a plan that was approved by the planning board, but it does also require zoning relief. And what I'd like to do is just to make it as simple as possible, just tell you the situation that we have as it exists. I'll go over that quickly. And then identify what the problems are, what happened to create those problems, and what the solution was that the planning board approved, which also includes the necessity for relief from this board. Mr. Dulgarian owns 2.0 acres in what is 3 separate lots that were deeded to him and which are separately taxed. He gets separate tax bills. The first is outlined in yellow, which does include some land in Lowell and some land in Chelmsford, on which are located 2 residential dwellings on one lot. One of them is a 2-family, which is 1012 Dulgarian Terrace, and the other is 14 Dulgarian Terrace. So he has a lot here, which has 2 residential dwellings on one single lot. Mr. Dulgarian also owns 53 Woodbine Street, which I've outlined in green. There's a single-family home on that, and that is 0.4 acres. And the third separate lot he owns, for which he gets separate tax bills, is outlined in blue here, which is identified as Woodbine Street. That's 0.36 acres. That's what he owns here.
And there's nothing on that at this time? Okay.
That is undeveloped. Now, none of the problems are several. First, none of these dwellings has public sewer. None of them are tied in. They're all on private septic. Water is only available for these properties these two dwellings on the one lot have wells. They don't have public water. The other problem I've outlined in black here, the public way, Woodbine Street, it ends right at the edge of 53 Woodbine. And access to these two homes on the single lot are through an extended pavement and then up through a private driveway called Dolgarian Terrace, which serves 10, 12, and 14. And worse yet, the neighboring property, which is not an owner, it's a family member that owns it, but 55 is actually landlocked. It gets its access off of the public way by, again, going over the 53 Woodbine Street property outlined in green that Mr. Dolgarian owns. Now, the way this happened is Mr. Dolgarian tells me his parents acquired 53 Woodbine back in the 1920s, and it then had access from Chelmsford Street. Right here is the Eastgate Mall, and Chelmsford Street would be.
I have the location map up.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And Route 3 access ramp, which was installed, ended that access from Chelmsford Street. So then access started coming in through Woodbine Street to get to this number 53. By the 1950s, Mr. Demoulas needed land to expand and to develop the Eastgate Plaza. So what he did at that time with Mr. Dolgarian's father is he purchased land from him. There was a house on there that was moved, which is now the 1012 Dolgarian Terrace property. And at the time, Woodbine Street was taken by the town and it was extended. The public way used to end here. It was extended in 1957 all the way to here, but it stopped right at 53. So it landlocked this 55 parcel, and it created a problem that was solved by Mr. Demoulas for Mr. Dolgarian's father by simply paving beyond where the public way ended on the 53 parcel and then going up to Woodbine Terrace to service that house that he had relocated. Mr. Dolgarian tells me his father was from the old country and didn't necessarily advocate for an extension all the way, which would provide access for 55 and for these houses as well. It was probably something that should have been done, the extension of that public way back in 1957, but they only stopped right at the edge here of that lot, and they landlocked 53, and they caused this house to have to get access to an extended driveway or an easement. So the solution that was approved by the planning board was a definitive subdivision. We went through the process last year, at the end of the year, and it was approved in January. But it does also require relief from this board. First, and I can show you on how it was reconfigured, and the planning board approved it. Woodbine Street was to be extended all the way to the edge of the 55 Woodbine Street parcel. And that would give 55 access to a public way, which right now it doesn't have. It just has access over someone else's property. The parcels in yellow were going to be divided into two lots now, each with having frontage on the extended public way. So you'll have two lots, one lot with a dwelling on it, and another lot with a dwelling on it, both accessed or having frontage off the public way and accessed over that driveway that exists. And the third thing is we're going to press down and reconfigure the green lot number 53 and the lot outlined in blue, which is just identified as Woodbine Street. So you'll have utilities also extended. By extending the public way, Mr. Dolgarian agreed with the planning board, and it was approved. At his expense, he's going to extend water and sewer lines for these properties and sewer lines for these other properties. So they'll all have access to public water and sewer, which they don't have. And then the new public way, which is extended, will all be repaved at Mr. Dolgarian's expense. He's going to take care of that. The planning board was insistent that it be done at the developer's expense, and Mr. Dolgarian agreed to do that. And also,
It's okay with this, too?
yes, they were okay with it at the planning board, and it was approved. The neighbors, number 55, who are here tonight, raised some issues before the planning board about drainage coming down from the extended public way. Mr. Dolgarian also agreed, and the plan was amended before the planning board, to install a drainage system at the end of the extended public way and direct the water off a drain easement, off into a drain easement onto his property to address the concerns that were then raised by the owners of number 55, who are here this evening. This is a unique type of project that we went before the planning board with, and Mr. Dolgarian started about 3 years ago working with Evan and with the engineers, and it finally came down to this plan that we produced and was approved. And frankly, the key to the whole project was the maintenance of the undeveloped lot as a buildable lot. That was going to be sold. The plan was always to finance the improvements, the extension of the driveway, the drainage that was being installed, and the utility lines. That was all going to be done by the sale of the undeveloped lot. And all this, of course, requires a variance. We need to subdivide the existing non-conforming lot that has 2 houses into 2 lots. They'll each still have insufficient area and frontage, but actually, these 2 new lots would have actually more frontage than they presently have on our public way. And then we need to get relief for these 2 slightly reconfigured lots, the one which has the house on it and the one which is undeveloped. Each of those also has insufficient frontage and area. So besides the improvements to the street and the drainage system and the installation of utility lines, the only change here is this separately deeded lot in its reconfigured state, we're asking for relief so that it could be.
What size is that lot?
That is 12,462 square feet. For the variance, obviously you need a hardship here. I would argue that the hardship is twofold relating to the condition of the soil. What you have here is a public way that stops and then it's continued. You wouldn't even know when you drive down the street, but it's unusable because it's a street, it's an easement, and it's been paved. So really, the reconfigured portion of the lot is essentially removing from the lot what was the easement and the paved portion. And by reconfiguring it, we tried to make equal size or approximately equal size between the 2 lots, the undeveloped one and the existing house lot. We don't think that this will be any detriment to the neighborhood. In fact, we're bringing sewer and water to homes that don't have it. We don't think we would derogate from the intent of the bylaw. Basically, for most purposes, we're actually increasing frontage on some of these lots. The 2 that are reconfigured, they're gonna have more frontage on a public way. They would be pre-existing non-conforming, but reconfigured them. And I'm sorry, my elbow keeps it.
I've screwed them up.
But we're asking for a relief for this plan, which requires variances for frontage and area on the 2 lots, which will now be 1 structure on each, with additional frontage on a public way, but not enough, and they will still be undersized. And then same thing with these 2 lots. They will actually have, or at least 53 will have even more frontage on the public way, but they will still both be undersized and still have insufficient frontage. We're asking for relief to do that, to solve all these problems. It would all be done at the developer's expense, Mr. Bulgarian. And as I said, the key to this has all along been to maintain that separate lot that his family bought years ago as an undeveloped lot.
The purple lot at this time is a separate lot that is getting a separate tax bill.
It is. There are 3 separate tax bills. One for the land in Chelmsford, which is now going to be 2 lots.
That would be subdivided and become 2 separate tax bills.
Correct.
And so there'd be 4 total of
Correct.
tax bills, okay.
Exactly. And then the existing 53 gets its own tax bill, and the existing Woodbine Terrace
And all
lot.
would get tied into sewer,
Correct.
and all would get tied into water, which is really 2 more
Correct.
that are on wells now.
And when we went to the planning board, the engineering department went over the plans as far as the extension of the public way, the requirement of the repaving, the extension of the utilities, and it all had to be done at Mr. Bulgarian's expense, and he is prepared to do that. However, as I said, the key to it is if he can maintain this separate lot undeveloped as a buildable lot, that can finance everything and solve all these problems.
So he's gonna sell the undeveloped lot?
Yes, that would be the...
Finance.
To finance the improvements, obviously.
And you need the variance so that it could still be buildable as a incentive to buy?
Correct. And by the way, 53 is still, because it's reconfigured, we'd ask for a variance, although technically it's going to have even more frontage than it had before, but it is still undersized. Same thing with the 2 lots in yellow. They'll have more frontage, but they're still undersized.
So the purple lot, is it currently 12,462?
No, it's slightly more. It's losing a little. The old lot line was here, but because we made the green lot smaller to make way for the public way, we kind of tried to extend it to make them 2 equal
So
size
how
lots.
much, what was the, what is the projected or proposed new size?
Proposed new size is 12,462 for the blue lot, 13,280 for the green lot.
Okay, so what, that's the new size. What was
Right.
the old size? How much are you taking away?
I have it right here.
Jeez.
I have it in acreage, I don't have it in square footage.
I can do the
Calculator, but
math. It's 0.36 acres.
0.36 is the blue and 0.4 is the green.
Can I ask a question? Are these 2 houses, or or buildings, butters to this is yours, right?
Yes, this is ours. These
This is
two,
the
they're all
butters.
one lot. Yes, that is.
And how did this guy have access to roads?
Off of Woodbine Street. The public way ends here.
But there's a house here. How does these people
They
get-
have driveways off of Woodbine.
Okay.
The extension of Woodbine is gonna go from here to there.
Gotcha. But these guys right now come down here through.
Yes, yeah, the public way goes down to the edge.
I got you.
Jerry, that's not part of the project.
No, I know. I'm just trying to figure out what the.
For the required square footage.
And are those people on wells as well?
So
Is
what
all-
we need would be.
See where the
24.
sewer is right
I-
here? Look at
How
the
far does the sewage go?
sewer goes right to there. That's the
Right to
stuff.
there?
Yep.
Okay.
And the water would go to the same. I don't have I can't show water on this map, but I do have a
Yes,
large
and
water
we just
map
need
downstairs. It goes,
24,000 square feet. This
it
has
follows the line. That's the end of the public way.
What was the hardship with soil conditions that you mentioned?
There is, the public way ends right here. And it's gonna be continued as a public way, and it'll be rebuilt and repaved by Mr. Dogarian. Right now, though, the condition of that is paved. As I said, back in the 50s, when this house was relocated, the town only went to here, the end of the public way, and Willis paved the rest. So in essence, it is a paved driveway
Front
or
yard.
street.
And it becomes a public way after he's done with it, and then. the
After it's
town
all done,
maintains
and then it would have to be built to the standards that the planning
If we
board
bonded and
required.
built to the town specs and then
Correct, and
turned
then it
over
would
to
be,
the town.
it would go to town meeting for a vote.
Right.
And town would maintain it from
From that day
therefore.
Yeah, after it's improved and accepted at town meeting.
So the hardship is that it's paved?
I think the hardship is that it's, number 57 has no frontage.
Well, 55 is
55, I'm
landlocked.
sorry.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardship.
Who's currently accessing his property from someone else's property?
Literally driving across the front yard.
Yeah.
Right, so that's a problem.
Yeah, but they're not the ones seeking the relief. That lot isn't. So it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
so it's not their hardship, the people applying.
Right.
Well, it's for us too. I mean, our lot's gonna be smaller because we really can't use what is gonna be the public way and what is currently the paved access for number 55.
This might not fit in that easy little box.
It's a unique project, I understand that. I guess I could try to address your concerns going forward, that you're not setting a precedent here. I mean, it's clearly, whatever's done in the past, I can't rely on and say, well, you granted these without much difficulty in the past. And going forward, if someone comes in and says, well, what about this one, you granted it? I mean, each one is different and
Case
unique.
by
You're not
case
setting a
basis.
precedent. This is an outlier to some extent.
Yeah, I'm just trying to come to terms with the hardship for the 3 current lots that we're speaking of.
Well, to give access on the public way for 2 lots, you do have to extend the public way. It's already paved anyway, and you can't use that portion.
But is that soil shape or topography, that it's paved, is that?
I think that the best way you can look at it as, looking at it as a single development essentially, single lot, and look at the lot shape and say, does that impact the
It's a
ability to
cluster.
provide lot area, lot frontage? It's a unique situation. If you just looked at the 2 lots in the purple and the green and looked at them separately, I don't think you can get to meeting the requirements for the grant of a variance. You need to look at everything holistically if you are inclined to grant.
I mean, I think this begs for relief. I think it would be nice to have it right. Theoretically, the green could put a fence across that road. I don't know how it would work if he chose to, but it's his property at this point.
It'll probably
And
acquire
it is
an easement.
approved.
I'm
It is an
looking at
approved
it.
subdivision
By
now.
default, you get an easement, or
Yeah, by
there's no
prescription.
easement at this point, correct?
There was a written
No
easement, but
recorded easement?
actually, I think the location is not where the actual use is. Part of the approval for the planning board, when we spoke and they attended the meeting, and they're here tonight, the owners of number 55, we actually did another easement for them over a portion of 53 to clarify exactly where their rights are. So they can come off the public way a little early and go through our property to get to their house where their existing driveway is.
And
They
that
were
would be
actually
an easement.
using a portion outside of where the easement of record was.
Okay. But there is an easement, they do have access.
Yeah, or it would be a prescriptive easement over the use. But again, it's family members, it's never been challenged. It's a cousin that owns this, or nephew's, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm looking at it thinking it makes sense, but I'm just trying to understand the letter of the law for a variance. Is there something that follows that line?
Well, but this Terrence, this Terrence Road on the yellow, right? That's private, and that's coming off of the same property of the green, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's Bulgarian Terrace, it's called. It's a private way that's been paved, and it provides access to 14 and to 10, 12. It will now come off of a public way. Right now, it comes off of
The private way.
green, yeah, and then it goes.
So either way, even if we don't, the landlocked lot, we still have these guys are accessing, so what you're saying is they're accessing it still off the other man's land?
Well, they'll have frontage on the public way. at
No,
the
right
end.
now.
Right now,
Right
they're
now.
doing it over our land, 53, correct.
So even if we don't
That's a
worry about the
bigger issue,
landlocked,
I think.
if we're not even worried about the landlocked lot because it's by right not his, he's still having access off the property with the Terrence. You know what I'm saying?
That's his property as well, I think.
Right, but he could, if he was to ever sell it or whatever, it's
Right.
not access off a public road.
Right.
He's accessing another
Causes
lot
yet
off
another
of
problem.
private land.
Causes the second problem like the first one.
The lots all merged, technically, common ownership.
What is the frontage going to be on those two, the split yellow after this
Oh,
process?
I've got 105 for 6E
Yeah, what's the other?
and 50 for.
Yeah,
that
50,
one.
that's like that.
They're both insufficient, but they're more than was there before.
And the purple and the green are also going to be insufficient frontage as well.
Correct, 138 and 129.
All right, can I put in my 2 cents for it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm waiting for it.
I'm really fine with section 2, to subdivide that lot. The 2 pre-existing houses are obviously there, and they should have their own lot. What I have a problem with is part 1, where you're making 2 lots that are not gonna be close to the RB zoning district.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cognizant of the issues and the question of a variance for lot area.
Right.
This, as I said, this had started a few years back. That was not really a thought at the time. But as I said, the whole key to it was, at least you'd have a lot, if the zoning was granted, that you could finance all the work you're doing with the extension, the drainage.
No, I get that too.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole key to the project is being able to at least develop that lot. I mean, he could have looked at parse opportunities in Lowell, there's a lot of land across the street, but didn't want to do that.
Thanks, Marianne.
So the bottom line is we'd be creating 4 non-conforming lots.
Out of 3.
Out of 3 that are already
Two
non-conforming.
houses already on. It's kind of minimal damage, and it ought to be fixed.
About the same
And the
size.
benefits too with the acquisition of water and utilities.
Right, right.
I think the benefits definitely would outweigh that. And how much are you reducing the frontage on that six golf? How much of the frontage is being reduced?
It's
How many
being
feet are you
increased.
taking? Are you increasing the frontage
For
on
green?
6? For blue?
Blue is actually being decreased a little. Again, they tried to make them approximately the same size.
So how much are you decreasing blue?
It's 129 now. It looks to me to, I'd have to estimate, but it looks to be by 30 feet maybe.
Yeah, you probably got 100.
But for the purposes of lot shape, you are allowed to look at multiple different lots and put them together and say, the shape of this conglomeration of lots as.
Well, we are the Board of Appeals. We are allowed to override the zoning requirements based on,
But for variance, for the hardship, it's gotta be lot shape, size, or topography, and we're saying shape, but we're doing the shape of this collection of lots, not a single lot.
Well, because the roadway doesn't extend currently, you can make the argument that all three existing lots have merged,
No.
Yeah.
in which case it is a single lot for your purpose of review.
for the theoretical pre-existing easement. Would preclude that, right? The easement?
The easement wouldn't preclude that,
Wouldn't care.
because there's no roadway, the lot line extends across the
It's
way.
paved, but it's not real.
They're
Right.
held in common ownership, because then they would still touch each other.
Just to give you a little history on,
Just for the record, sir, if I could ask for your name and address?
my father, who moved up from Lowell back in the 1920s and bought that house in on 53 Woodbine Street, way back, where me and my brother were born in that house, and my two sisters were born in Lowell. We all went to the Chelmsford schools. Anyway, we had no access up to Woodbine Street, because Woodbine Street ended up on the top of the hill, and we had to walk to go to school, walk out all the way out to Chelmsford Street, which was a right-of-way. There was no road, it was just a dirt road that we used to walk out. And my father had a house on Chelmsford Street that goes back to the 1600s, where horse-drawn boats from the Middlesex Canal, who used to take their produce from Nashua all the way to Chelsea and to Boston on a week-for-week basis. And my father bought that house, and he had rented it out, and I think he was getting $3 a week from each of the two customers that were renting it at that time. Anyway, when they built the highway, they had to build a ramp, and they took my father's house away from him on Chelmsford Street, and they took away our right-of-way to go out to Chelmsford Street, so the state had to build extending Woodbine Street at the top of the hill to come down to Woodbine Street. The only thing is, they never extended all the way to the end, and they brought it up to the edge of the house instead of bringing it beyond the house. And that was another problem. My father, coming from the old country and didn't know all these rules and regulations and everything. And then the house he built across from Woodbine Street, before Bulgarian Terrace was created, the mower said, I need more land so we can push the store back from Market Basket there at Demoulas. And so they moved the house and created Bulgarian Terrace. And again, my father didn't know any better to tell Demoulas to extend Woodbine Street and give it to the town, and to create Bulgarian Terrace as a public road. So these are things that I'm stuck with today, and I didn't want my kids to go through this, and that's why we're trying to square these away. And then that empty lot used to belong to a Mr. Vega, who used to have a garden there next to the Woodbine Street, that empty lot. And my brother bought that lot from him, and he had a garden there in 1948. He sold it to my brother. I don't know for what, $400 or $500 or whatever it was at that time. And so in the meantime, down through the years, that he's passed 5 or 10 years now, people have been sending me letters in the mail wanting to buy that empty lot, and we never thought of selling it. So, and I've been getting the letter just in the last couple of weeks that they're interested in building a house lot on that lot. And I says, I can't do anything until we get town approval on this thing here. And so these, just to give you a little background on this, and let you know, I just want to clear these things up and see what can be done by the town to get some help on this issue. What else can I say?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Good to know. Further questions from the board? Thoughts from the board?
I'm going to read the letters, and then we'll take it into the audience and see what happens. Greg Halladania, 10 to 12 Dulgarian Terrace, 53 Woodbine Street, Lot 41, 140, 69 Woodbine Street. The Building Department, the potential for Lot 6G 41-140-69 would have a house on a lot that is less than half the required square footage in an RB district.
Is that the purple?
That's the purple lot, I believe.
Yeah.
Engineering has no concerns. Center Water has an attached letter. It's addressed to the Planning Board, 1012 Bulgarian Terrace, 53 Woodbine Street, 41 140 69 Woodbine Street. Board members, the Chelmsford Water District's concern is the diameter of the water main proposed. A representative for the proposed project should contact the Chelmsford Water District. The Board of Water Commissions, upon approval of the proposed project, would request the following to be part of your order of conditions. Water for domestic use only. Water-saving devices should be utilized throughout the facility. And xeriscape landscaping should be implemented to minimize water usage. Richard Tassano, Distribution Manager, Chelmsford Water District. The Board of Health has no concerns. Community Development has an asterisk with no concerns. Consistent and complementary to Planning Board definitive subdivision approval. That is the extent of my letters. Is there anyone in the audience this evening would like to speak either in favor or opposition to this project? Good evening. Come up to the podium.
Sure.
And if you have some documents, you can provide us with them as well. Just your name and address, please.
Audrey Domanian, 25 Bentley Lane. I'm one of the owners of 55 Woodbine Street. And we prepared a letter, my brothers and I.
Thank you. I accept that.
55 is
And you're the
the
lot that's
landlocked.
landlocked. Yes, I can clear up any questions.
I'll read this into
We-
the record.
Oh,
just
okay,
quickly.
sure. Thank you.
25 Bentley Lane, Chelmsford, Mass. Town of Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals, 50 Billerica Road, Chelmsford, Mass. Subject, opposition to the variance request for lot 41-140-69 Woodbine to be a buildable lot, single-family, two residential, single or two-family residential. We are the owners of 55 Woodbine Street. We oppose the variance request for lot 41-140-69 Woodbine to be a buildable lot, single-two-family residential. The variance request is premature since Woodbine Street has not been developed. The two catch basins and two dry wells have not been installed. Lot 41-140-69 should not be considered a buildable lot since there is no storm drainage on Woodbine Street. In addition, we do not know the size or location of the proposed single two-family home and driveway to be constructed. Lot 41-140-69 is slope land, and the size of the future home and driveway is critical information to know prior to granting a variance, since the runoff water will be directed to our property. The water would adversely impact our home, which has been in our family for over 57 years. Please do not approve the variance for lot 41-140-69 until the road construction is completed and we know the plans for the proposed home. Andrew Dumanian, Audrey Dumanian, and L. Robert Dumanian. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are you just concerned that it won't be done correctly?
No, no, no.
I would imagine this would be to your benefit to have this happen.
Well, let me explain. There are no catch basins now on that side of the road, and it's a hill, and it's sloped. And if it were to be sold and a house would be built on there, we
This
have...
is the purple lot we're speaking of, correct?
Correct, the purple lot.
Okay.
I mean, we were, I should say, only consulted a week before it went to the planning board. Or I should say we weren't consulted. I found out when I received this in the mail. And what I was pointing out is this lot is sloped, and we don't have any control, if you approve this, on what size house how many driveways it would have, and there's no drainage at the bottom. Therefore, all the water from this home would flow down and flood our home here. And one thing I'd like to clarify is, we always had access to our home. There was an easement. And now afterwards, we do not have frontage. It was told in the very beginning in October that we would have frontage. We do not have frontage because this is property at the end of a street. And they said we do not have frontage now. We were provided with this easement, which is a little different than what was on the original plan. When we grew up, though, we had always assumed that this driveway was on our property. We're just afraid if you approve this now, someone can build a home. We don't have any control of that runoff water that goes down here. There's no catch basins there now. Wouldn't it make sense to build the road first, have the catch basins installed, and then get the variance for the house, for the lot?
I'm going to have Mr. Halladanian respond to your concerns. I'm sure you've had the discussion.
No, I just had this discussion today with Mr. Halladina.
Well, we had a lot of discussions before the planning board.
Well, I was never told that that lot, and I asked several times, is the lot, what are you going to do with the lot? And I was told that there would, at this time, we have no plans. And, well, the plan was you needed to sell the lot, which I just heard today, to pay for the development of the road. And I was never told that in the beginning.
It was right on the notes on the plan. It was always, for the last 3 years, the key to the whole project was being able to sell the blue purple lot,
Well,
finance it. We're getting into this debate, and we've had this before with Mr. Dogarian's niece. We don't know what's going to be built there. We haven't proposed anything other than to get relief so that it could be buildable. That was well known to the planning board at the time we got the approval. And as I said, now there's no drainage. The planning board, and in consultation with Mr. Manian, we all agreed to install drainage there, so there would be some improvement. The planning board knew there was going to be a house there, or at least it was going to be subject of a request for zoning relief. I guess now the question is the adequacy of the drainage system that the planning board and the engineers approved. What we're talking about is a very small lot, which is obviously not going to be a large house. It was something that was known to the planning board when we went before them, that was going to be the subject of a request for zoning relief.
And you're planning to improve drainage
Yes,
as part of your project,
correct. There's nothing there now. When we repave and extend, we're also going to put catch basins and run it off of their property, where right now it just runs onto it.
Can I say one more thing? The planning board, I'm sorry, the planning board said that he would need to get a variance from the appeals board. They were just doing the subdivision, and it's up to you to approve, my understanding, the variance. I'm only saying, why do you do the variance now? Because we don't have the drainage yet. We don't have the road. We're
process
already
would ensure
flooded.
that does happen.
We're already flooded as it is. An additional home, we don't know the size of the home. I don't know what the driveway is, the runoff.
And I'm just going to interrupt you for a moment. Mark, if this lot were to be approved, would it be a non-conforming lot?
Not, according to Paul, not if it's by variance, it won't be non-conforming.
Correct.
It will be conforming by variance.
So the setbacks would be 40 feet?
But still
It's
subject
an
to
RB.
RB. You've only got about a 20 by 20 house within zone, within code, that you can put on that property without coming to us.
For relief for a variance on that.
Because you've only got 100 across, so you got 80 with 40 on both sides, and then with the setbacks and, for the front and
40
rear.
would be, if you have 100 across, you'd
Wouldn't be
have
much.
60 feet for a house, so it's
Yeah,
doable.
It's
Probably
doable,
be
but
seeing someone, if there is a buyer.
you'll see them here.
We didn't go to the
What
lengths
I'm
of
saying.
projecting a footprint or doing anything like that. We didn't have plans for selling it other than to acquire the funds to do the improvements. But
You got 50
will,
off
in all
the
likelihood,
sides.
be
So,
seeing
Mr. Chairman, if I might, the long and short of it, if the lot gets a variance, the proposed house would have to meet the RB setbacks, or they'll be coming back.
For relief.
Right.
So,
You got 70 off
RB
the front
was-
rear, and you got 60 off the sides.
25 front, 20 side,
40
and 30
front.
rear.
40 and 30
40.
front to rear, and then sides are 25.
I'm going to
50 off the
suggest,
sides, so you get 50.
and I know how much you probably have already invested in this, that we get a building envelope and continue this meeting to provide this young lady with some details to the home. I think, and I'm not quite sure how it will work, but this wouldn't happen without the road being installed. So I think your fears of it not happening are impossible.
Well, that's not what I heard from Attorney Halladina, if I was.
So, Mr. Chairman, the board can always impose a condition on the grant of any variance that requires all of the drainage infrastructure to be completed before a building permit can be issued. So
there's
you
a
definitely have
protection
the
we could put
mechanism
in
to
place
ensure
for
that.
you.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
I have to think this is a positive event for you, should it happen the way it should.
We're
I don't
hoping
know
that.
if, I mean, I think the drainage would be an improvement for you. I think to allow you to have a public way to utilize is a plus. It's obviously a mess, there's no question there. And the solution appears to me to be reasonable. And I do understand the finance aspect of it. This is, you know, a road like that, it's $1,000 a foot. I mean, it's easily that, so
I said the town should pay for the road.
that's probably not gonna happen.
Yes, I heard
You
that
can ask,
also.
It did not happen.
I wouldn't be ready to book on that. I
We're
don't
all lifelong residents, and I mean, we're all family, and we all want to get along. It's just the order of this approval. Do you know what I'm saying? The
Well,
approval.
We wouldn't have a problem
Okay.
offering you protection as the roadway must be before building permits can be issued. I don't have a problem with putting that condition into the overall, and I really don't know the flavor of the board as to approval at all. You know, we haven't taken a straw poll. I think there are problems here that should be resolved. They're not necessarily without pain, so to speak. And the cost of doing this is substantial. So to utilize a piece of land to do that, it's not going to be a really big house. That's for sure. And I think we can ask that be a building envelope be put on the plan so you will understand what size the house could be, the most it could be for size, and the driveway can be located. You know, you'll be on sewer too. I mean, that's got to be a very positive.
Would the house be built, though, before the road?
It
No,
wouldn't- we
after
could,
the
we
road.
could make that a.
He's
Okay.
offering a contingency
Okay.
with the
Thank you.
variance, a contingency
Okay.
would be, if passed.
Okay.
The contingency would be the road and drainage would be done prior to a building permit issued for that lot.
Okay, that would be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
You could engineer around that envelope a little bit.
We don't know if it'll work, Audrey, the drainage.
We're gonna discuss that. That's fine.
Well, and again, the drainage will have to be done by an engineer, so I can't tell you it's gonna work, but I can tell you there.
If it doesn't work, we'd be ruined, and there would be a house there. I mean,
No,
we'd be stuck.
we're gonna work on it. Thank you.
Yeah, I
That's fine.
think that an engineer can develop this land so that you're not ruined or affected by the water.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think he can.
No, it's fine.
I mean,
Well-
where are we with the drainage calculations? Have they been prepared? Have you been with the planning board with drainage calculations, or just in agreement to have?
It was by agreement to install the catch basins and direct it away. We're not drainage calculations.
Mr. Chair, was looked at extensively by our town engineer.
Christine looked at it, so our town engineer, who is a licensed engineer, feels that it can be done.
Yes, we spoke to her. She was very
Oh,
good.
good, yeah, she's very
Yes.
knowledgeable.
Right.
But
I
an
think
additional house would require maybe some new
Right, and
numbers.
if we did have an envelope and
She
a
knew that there was
driveway
gonna
and
be
so
Well, I think
forth,
that's-
then the calculations would be easier
Right,
to do.
then we know the
than-
amount of roof runoff and
Exactly,
such.
then whatever margins they might build into that.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
No, nothing.
That was fast. Like that better. All right, I'm going to suggest that we continue this meeting till the August I don't know what day it is.
August 2nd, I believe.
August 2nd. And at that time, we can get the home, the envelope drawn onto the plan, so we know what size house can possibly go there. Maybe a
No,
decision
that's
can be
fine.
made on the best place for the driveway to give them the fullest
Yes.
picture of what would be there.
These were all
I don't know if there are other questions here that are precluding that they have some work to do. I don't know.
For number 55, did you say that there was no frontage? It's just the easement? Is there any way to provide frontage for them?
There wasn't.
There was no way?
If I read the plan correctly, I thought they would get the 40 feet at the end of the
The
road.
width of the
Well,
road.
that's what I was
So that would be
wondering.
40 foot of frontage.
That's what I was thinking too, and that's why I think who had said that
As
there
much as
wasn't
that's a very
frontage.
hard number, it's better than
But
zero.
I'd like to see this drawn out better so we can actually see, are they getting frontage, so.
The last comment
Yeah.
from the town engineer was that that lot would not have legal
Would
frontage.
not have legal frontage because 40 feet isn't sufficient.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
would
but
have-
but they
frontage.
would
have more frontage
They would
than
have
currently
something more than I have
Which is
today, which
zero.
is zero.
Gotcha.
Which would be another improvement.
Kind of the best
That's
fix
what
they
I'm
could
trying
hope
to-
for that lot.
And I think that's a big,
Unless that
that's a
can
big improvement.
extend-
Let me see.
When you look at the aggregate of this,
What was the name of the
It's
terrace?
actually on the big plan, it's just the big plan's so busy, it's hard to see it, but it is.
No, I know,
important.
that's why sometimes it's better to peel it apart so we can see what
Yeah, that
we're.
plan is very busy, that's why I brought in the sketch. just to-
Just on that house at 55 Woodbine Street, when the movers had moved my father's house, there was a chicken coop. They moved to that property where 55 Woodbine Street is today, and my father had that converted into a house at that time. And just to give you some more information, but there was a chicken coop at one time. And,
August 19th.
And that was moved when the movers bought the property, they moved it all
So
the
we're
way
good.
to the end of Woodbine Street. And then my father had it made into a
She wouldn't have legal
ranch
frontage.
house,
She'll have
whatever.
something.
There you go.
Anyway, just thought I'd give you some
It's just what's the property.
things that
If it takes
probably
after the
should have
property
been
line.
straightened out at that time, and never did.
Plus 30.
And I don't know how this would work, or whether it's more problematic than not. Is it possible to extend their frontage by a land gift next to the Terrace Road, next to Bulgarian Terrace? Would they gain frontage if the right-of-way was extended upward, if you would, towards Lowell?
Up here?
Yeah.
Um,
I know you wouldn't get to
yeah,
the
that's where the drainage is
150.
gonna go, I mean, we could,
The road's gonna go there anyway.
yeah, the road will go to the end, and then the drainage will run out and through here to avoid their property entirely.
Not going to the property.
I suppose you could make it a little wider, but it's still gonna be insufficient. Now, we didn't
But-
ask for, they didn't ask for a
But
variance.
is it better? I mean, that's what we're looking.
The existing proposal, the roadway is not going to the property line?
Just short of it, and then the catch basins will be in there.
So that's not gonna give them access.
That's what I, yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
That's
That's
not- they won't
why,
have
Certainly
frontage.
have to
that's why they
continue.
demanded the
Well, they could,
easement.
the way would go to the edge, but they already have a driveway,
It'll
so
be the
rather than make them
right-of-way.
replace it.
Right.
we grant- we're gonna
No, I
formally
get
grant
that,
the
so they don't have
So
to
if the
replace it.
right-of-way goes to the property line, then.
The right-of-way.
I'm not sure, I just remember what Christina said, and she was very strong stated about that there is no legal, she did say legal, but she's also an engineer, she's not a lawyer. She's saying there's no frontage. We
Well,
can
there is
check
a
on that
legal
for the,
frontage, but there's more than there is now.
right.
Is there frontage if the road doesn't touch their property? Is that?
No.
Right.
So there's a right of way, because the
It isn't.
drainage will be
That's what I
there.
was concerned about.
So maybe the road should go as far as their property line,
Then where does the drainage go?
and that creates frontage, and then as far down,
I think we have frontage because the way itself, shown on the plan, goes up to them. Now, the paved portion of the way doesn't go up to their property.
Yeah, so that's not gonna give
The
them
way does.
frontage, so.
has to be
If it's not, it doesn't exist on the ground, it doesn't count as frontage.
Well, we avoided that because they already have an existing driveway.
No, understood.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
not
I'm not sure
frontage
that-
either.
I think it was stated that there was no way to get
Both
them.
the houses, 53 and
What she said.
55 Woodbine Street have town water. The two houses on Bulgarian Terrace don't have town water, we have well water on
Right.
that street. And that was one of my other issues, I wanted to have sewerage brought in for the house at 53 and also town sewage for 10 and 12 and 14 Bulgarian Terrace. So that was why we're trying to clear all these issues up. But
Okay, I think we're gonna take a motion for a continue. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak at this moment before we close this for the evening? Seeing none? A motion to continue till August 2nd. Second by Steve. Too slow. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Yeah, if we could get a plan, and I would research the frontage as best you can so that 55 does get
Thanks a
some
lot,
frontage if
Charlie.
possible. And whether we could locate an envelope on the purple lot. I think that would be, the best we could hope for.
Isn't that the same as a cul-de-sac? Cul-de-sac goes to the end of the road.
Oh, yeah, you lucky guy.
Pavement doesn't go to the property line. So this could be, this is the easement, just like on any road, they have the
I know,
town
we can't all be
right-of-ways,
constables,
right? And the same thing
shall we?
just goes around it, just like a cul-de-sac.
Well,
That's how I looked at it, that
Right.
regardless
We'll
of
take you
pavement
down.
to the lot line.
Except for it's not.
Right.
I'll read it
Right.
someday. December.
It's not a cul-de-sac.
And a cul-de-sac is made to
If they-
give them the
if
max
they-
frontage.
If they
Right.
round it a little bit. Is it possible to, right, not a cul-de-sac, a dead end, stop this meeting?
Hammerhead.
Sponsored by North Face at this point, because the frosty breeze coming out.
Have a good night. All right, let me pass these out.
Smelling coffee.
You pass these down to them.
This is nothing.
Getting tired.
What is this?
It's a draft decision.
Okay.
We still got one more, you guys.
This is for this thing here.
This is for 61 Carlisle Street,
Pages on this?
where we were. It's almost identical to what was.
We have to read the whole thing.
No, he's gonna go
I'm
over
letting
it
her read it, and she can, she's a speed reader.
Last time we did good, no one said the address once.
Jerry's over there too, right?
I'm gonna go sit in the audience. This frosty breeze.
I know. I was watching some of the previous ones.
Forgot my North Face jacket, I said it was
It's
June.
too bad I left my hoodie out in the car too. I could have brought it in for you. Maybe a little Afghan you could put on your lap.
Small tents, maybe.
I'm gonna start cleaning up since I don't have anything. We'll print and sign tonight.
They don't need to sign tonight. They vote tonight.
Okay.
Say it again?
Will you guys take a minute to review a little bit the rest
Oh, there's a master
Yeah,
plan.
I'm gonna probably follow you, so.
Brian, you want to take a 5-minute recess?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, yeah.
Could we? Yeah. He's gonna run out to the
So,
car to get his jacket. That's what he-
zoning is the
Go
density
ahead.
plan.
I'll let you go.
Each lot, in RB and RA is your density planning. Where by not being in compliance with the 10% affordable housing requirement, we leave ourselves open to Chapter 40B, which allows Steve go home?
He went to, I think he went to a Walmart zone.
Oh, he's over there, huh?
That's Zone Steve.
What are you, just cold?
That's Zone. So.
hell is that?
Wow. Who put that in zoning?
Is that a bus pulling in? Must have been the.
Must be the fire truck.
Took a fire truck for a ride, huh?
Across the street. I'm with you. Yeah, I'll let you out. I found you going up with my
So Paul, there's only 4. Is there associates? Did you ever read an associate?
It was so nice meeting everybody.
Welcome.
See you in August.
We're gonna get you a name tag with someone else's. Are you telling me, was it spelled right? It was even spelled
Oh,
right.
Nancy.
How about that?
Nancy, you must have been feeling good about this.
It's not like Krasinski or something.
Right, then you'd have at least a
Nancy
reason.
sit in the corner for like 6 months.
Oh, and I didn't hand out plans. These are new plans, you got them, right?
Kinda had to
Paperwork
change
in.
mine. More than once.
Good night.
Hi, Jay. Nice to meet you, Jamie. Thank you.
New plans, just in case. I don't wanna leave without finishing my job. These were the engineering, plans that she asked for.
Okay, there's an additional letter?
And it was just about the plans, like she wants something from the plans.
Let's look at this one.
This is, I can just,
Christina, okay.
she must review the plans and so, so that'll just be a condition.
And that the stormwater calculations,
Did she copy Paul? She didn't.
nope.
Let me give it to Paul to see if he. Paul, Christina didn't copy you on this letter? I thought she did. I think she's asking for a condition.
So Evan forwarded this to me. It was already addressed.
Oh, it was already addressed?
I had already
Oh.
taken care of it in the draft.
Good. Does it need to be read into the record?
Can, certainly.
Then he said he's already addressed.
Okay, I'm gonna read this into the record. It is a letter to
Open
Evan
it first.
Belansky from
Right.
Christina.
You'd open the hearing first.
Oh, we haven't opened it yet, huh?
Yeah, no, we haven't.
We open that with a motion or just say we're opening the hearing?
Just say you're open.
Well, we are in recess, so.
All right. We're back. We're going to open the hearing for 61 Carlisle Street. I have a letter from Christina Papadopoulos. Dear Evan, I received an email with revised plans for 61 Carlisle Street this morning. Stormwater calculations were not attached. I have not had a chance to review the plans. I asked that the ZBA add a condition that prior to the issuance of building permits, the town engineer must review the plans and stormwater calculations, and the applicant is to revise the plans and calculations in order to comply with the review. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact me. Christina Papadopoulos, P.E., Town Engineer, Town of Chelmsford. Mr. Haverty has told me that he has already addressed this, and it is in the final order of conditions.
Mr. Chairman, if you look at condition, well, it's not even a condition, it's a procedural history number 9.
Look at you. How do you get Steve?
Which is on page 2. It states the applicant submitted minimal information at the outset of the public hearing and supplemented its submittal with more detailed plans submitted on June 6, 2018. Because the town engineer was not provided sufficient time to review the more detailed plans, such review shall occur during the review of final plans as agreed upon by the applicant. What I would say is that this is drafted to be more broad than just a review of the stormwater. It really, if you recall, the correspondence we received from the town engineer earlier in the process, that her statement was, the information we've received is inadequate to review. We will review as part of final plans instead. So that was what the idea was all along. The addition of the additional information with regard to the plans is very helpful, but it hasn't been looked at yet. So pushing it off to the final plan review still allows, that appropriate review to take
time
place.
to be done.
And if there are issues and concerns, they'll have to be addressed as part of that process.
Thank you. Also, as a note, on 61 Carlisle, we have 4 eligible voting members: Mr. Reedy, Mr. Carrata, Mr. Mendez, and Mrs. Morency, excuse me. So it'll have to be a unanimous vote to approve the project.
No, it's only a simple majority required, so 3-1
Oh, I'm
vote is
sorry.
sufficient.
So it's still with 4.
Whether you had 5 or whether you had 4, they only need 3 votes for an approval. 3-2 would have been sufficient.
Oh, did not know that.
Yep. 40B is a simple majority.
Okay. Somebody should write that down. Are there any questions on the review of this document? And it seems to be much as we discussed.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Melisi just notified me just before we opened this that there were a couple of spots where I misidentified Lot 1 and Lot 2 as to which one has the existing structure and which one will be the project. So I have corrected those so that they're now properly labeled.
Lot 1 and 2 thing switched.
Right, I got it.
Chair, just approach Mr. Harity real quick.
Absolutely.
Show me something else I
Just
got
a-
wrong.
Yeah, this one might be a little less, it has to do with the easement to the parking. The easement from Lot 2 to Lot 1, again, that's just.
Okay, I mean, I could say between Lot 2 and Lot 1. So I will switch that to number 15. It says therefore an easement from Lot 2 to Lot 1 will be required. I can just change that language to between Lot 2 and Lot 1. Yep. Because they will both need to be parties to that easement.
Is that what it is?
So if there weren't any other specific questions or concerns with regards to findings and conditions, we can head down to the bottom where they have the waiver decisions.
Exhibit A.
That begins at page 21. So these are presupposing that the board is inclined to vote in favor of granting the comprehensive permit. So these waivers would be necessary where indicated that the waiver would be granted. These would be necessary in order to allow the construction as shown on the plans. So section 195-5 permitted uses would not allow a 5-unit rental development on the property, so a waiver would be necessary. So to the extent the board is inclined to grant a comprehensive permit, that waiver should be granted. Section 195-104 site plan review, that waiver is not necessary because the applicant is not required to obtain site plan approval because this is a comprehensive permit. A comprehensive permit subsumes all other local approval processes. So that would be superfluous. So in that instance, I don't think that the board should grant the waiver. I think it should deny it, but noting that the waiver is unnecessary.
We don't deny, we just don't.
I just say a waiver denied as unnecessary. That's what
Okay.
my suggested language states.
Oh, it's there, I'm sorry, okay.
Yep. So, section 195, attachment 2, table of dimensional requirements. They're seeking a waiver of the minimum lot area, frontage, lot width, lot depth, all of front yard setback, minimum side yard setback, rear yard setback, floor area ratio. All of those, again, are necessary in order to construct the project as shown on the plans. So to the extent the board's inclined to grant the comprehensive permit, it should also grant all of these waivers. Additional zoning relief was the last aspect of the bylaws that there was a request, and says the applicant petitions for such additional relief as may be necessary to conform the relief sought to the plans filed with the application for a comprehensive permit as amended from time to time, including with the relief sought is a comprehensive permit in lieu of all ancillary, subsidiary, usual, customary, or necessary local permits, approvals, or licenses, in lieu of which the zoning board of appeals may grant a comprehensive permit to the extent necessary to conform the relief granted to the plan submitted therewith and as amended from time to time. So as I had noted, other permitting processes do not require a specific waiver. They're automatically subsumed under Chapter 40B, so no specific waiver is necessary for the rest of that. Then I also note, to the extent the applicant seeks a waiver of specific provisions of the zoning bylaws that are not enumerated in its waiver request but are shown on the plans, such additional waivers must be identified, and the applicant must request that such waivers be approved as an insubstantial modification pursuant to 760 CMR 56.0511. So the purpose of that is, when you're approving a comprehensive permit, you're approving the plans. So anything that's shown on the plans is, you've had the opportunity to review, and if you are approving, that's what you are approving, even if you didn't get a waiver list that specifically listed it.
Yeah.
That being said, the board should be knowingly granting the waivers. The waivers should be readily ascertainable in the board's decision, so to the extent they weren't enumerated, the applicant should, and this would happen post-approval, when they're going forward, looking at a building permit, something along those lines. If it comes up that you didn't get a specific waiver for this, then you just submit a request for an insubstantial change, so that we have an actual
You're
written
approving
record
the overall
that the
thing.
waiver has been granted.
If a detail is missed, it's still,
It's ministerial. You
It's
just
recoverable.
submit a letter so that we can get it on the record that that waiver was requested and granted. So that's it on the waivers. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Brian, I know that you previously had a concern with regards to the A&R plan.
yeah,
that was going to
and
be
talks,
granted, and we've had some discussions about that. And as I had stated to you, they're splitting off an existing lot that has an existing structure and creating a new lot. And the way that works under zoning is, when you do that, the lot that has the existing structure is not the lot that becomes the non-conforming lot, it's the newly created lot. That lot now becomes servient to the first lot for zoning compliance. Anything that first lot needs to become zoning compliant, it has to provide. Therefore, it wouldn't be able to get a building permit to build on that, except as part of this process, the Board of Appeals can waive any of those requirements, because you're issuing a comprehensive permit and you have the right to waive any local zoning rules and regulations. So the relief that's being granted for what is being proposed is not for the existing structure, it is for the comprehensive permit.
I appreciate the clarity there. I did not understand that, and it's good to know how we're doing that. As you know, my concern was that a further 40B could yet appear on the far side of the barn, but at this point, it doesn't seem.
That would require a new application, which go through the same process.
Right. Any other questions there, Ms. Spellcheck?
Got the double A before comprehensive permit?
I did get that,
Okay.
actually. I noticed it while I was reading it. Did you want to throw it to the audience for any last comments?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. We're going to open up to the audience for any questions or concerns regarding this application.
I'm not very observant.
Karen Christensen, 66 Carlisle Street. Again, same concerns I've had for probably close to a year now. But basically, this is as far as the guidelines in Chelmsford, this should be and should remain a single-family lot. It's just about an acre. I don't believe it should be divided into two. I don't believe that it's the oldest house in East Chelmsford. It's a historic property. I do not believe it should be developed in this manner. There are other concerns, such as there's so much overbuilding going on in Chelmsford right now. We do not have the infrastructure. We do not have the school system to provide for all the influx of people coming into Chelmsford right now. Nor do we have the water supply. You can see the signs out already that we're on water bans and to be careful with that. So there's been a huge amount of development in East Chelmsford, overdevelopment really, and this is just another case of that, and I would like to see the board vote it down and preserve the house. Thank you, and barn. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
John Souza, 88 Carlisle Street. I'd like to echo many of the same sentiments that Karen just expressed. In the interest of time, I won't run through all of them. I still believe it's too dense for this lot. I urge the board to reject the notion of dividing into 2 lots. Just a question for the board. Is the board planning on voting on this tonight? As I saw that some members left the meeting.
So at this point, there are 4 voting members that are allowed to vote on this project.
Okay.
And they are here this evening. I think the intent is to vote on this tonight.
You need to vote on this tonight because you are not holding a July meeting.
So we would
You're
be
gonna need
in,
to close the hearing tonight and vote, otherwise you'd go past your 40-day period.
So we will be voting
We'll
tonight.
be voting. Okay, thank you.
And I think it probably is helpful to point out that the other members, Jamie and Jerry, both were not eligible because they weren't members of the board when the hearing process started, and Charlie has recused himself and has not participated at any point.
That leaves us. Any further discussion? Mark, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm just still kind of going through it, but no, I don't have any.
We're not in a rush. I haven't seen much change.
Where is that? 6.8 feet.
So we still do have safe harbor.
It must be this funky line that demises the 2 out, I think. This is the actual property line we're granting right here. So this must be it right here. That says 19.6.
Yeah, I don't see anything saying 6.8.
No cause.
8.2.
Not cost.
What was it saying? It went, some more clues.
Minimum side yard setback of 6.8 feet.
17. Here, no. It has to be this somewhere in here.
It's just not shown.
Well, I'm wondering if this 19.6 is the existing house, but this becomes the encroachment. Whether this is a ramp, a stair.
I thought they'd have to dimension everything they need the variance for.
Brian, can I ask you a question? There's a waiver granted for the side setback. The applicant requests a waiver of the minimum side setback from 25 feet to allow for a minimum side setback of 6.8. Can you just show us where that's located?
I think it might be where the handicap ramp is, if that is a handicap ramp. The entry.
And I'll bring one over there to you, Mark. Follow my pen if you will. This is where the proposed lot line goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6.8, oh, that's 8.2.
8.2.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been this to this.
Oh, well, we did catch, we never put this one in before, and through the hearing process, we kind of put that one in here. But it should be, it's the 8.2 right here.
So that's not 6.8?
Okay, so that would be a change we'd want to make
Yeah, it's just red line.
in the waiver from.
So the waiver is less, it's 8.2 rather than 6.8?
It's larger, the waiver is larger.
Right,
Yeah, that's,
The
that's
8.2.
the waiver.
Yeah.
8.2, is that what I heard?
Yeah, that's gotta get reprinted. I
Yeah,
just-
no, exactly, yep.
And then
Right.
where's the 18.7?
That we saw.
That's rear yard
Tighten
setback.
up some of the survey
Side yard.
lines, so that's 17.
No, he's asking where the 18.7
Oh, okay.
is.
Do you find it? Oh,
I
okay.
found it in my decision.
Okay. 'Cause I don't see an
So
18.7
the
either.
rear setback would go from
Oh, I got it, it's right
18.7.
here. Yeah, the 8.2?
Yeah, no, that's,
No.
6.8, so it's 8.2.
That's a side
It says
setback.
8.2 right there.
Yeah, but the decision says 6.8.
Oh, okay.
But you know what, these probably just got tightened up when the engineering
This
was
is
done on the
stamped,
plans, you know
right,
what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 17.3 for the rear setback as
For
opposed to
18.7.
18.7. And then 8.2 for the side setback as opposed to 6.8.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Change those.
Tighten up the property lines. and everything.
Yeah, yeah, right, it's finite.
Find what I'm agreeing to.
Yeah, well, we should have it right. Look at you getting a star from spell check.
Bonus points.
And that's what I was saying with regards to waivers
Yeah,
should
right,
be
that'll get adjusted later.
listed so that you can see
Yeah.
what it was that was granted. And if they're inconsistent with the plans, then
So that went through and Steve didn't catch it. It would be corrected and then it's just a,
Oh, for the
Administrative change.
so the side yard setback wouldn't, because it authorized up to 6.8, so if they build 8.2
They're okay.
away, it's okay, they're
It-
complying. Whereas the rear yard, because it's actually slightly more of a,
that would be a significant, or a change.
then that would be a change that they would have had to actually request a waiver, I'm sorry, a modification that would be insubstantial, but just to show that we have a record of it, what was actually approved. Because you'd have an inconsistency between the plans and between the waiver list.
Frontage is not shown on here.
I think we should be playing a Jeopardy game.
Frontage
I think we should be playing a Jeopardy game.
for either lot.
It's been a while.
I see
I have
111.
111.43. And then 104.75 with a radius of 343.36. And that's not frontage. Oh, that's an easement to O'Donnell.
I got a lot frontage of 66 feet in the,
Lot 2. Ben, what's the lot frontage for Lot 2, the proposed frontage?
I believe it's 66 feet.
Would that be identified as well?
Yeah, it's on C66 right here.
Oh, it's on there?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Summary, on the summary table for proposed drive. Oh, were you looking for the waiver?
I look at the actual plan,
it's
but
on
if
the
it's in the
table.
table, I think
Yeah,
that
it's on
would
the table,
apply.
right there,
Okay.
right there.
66, 17. Okay, thank you.
Minimum frontage, 150 required, 66. So if it's on here as a detail in there, we're still fine with it.
Yeah, no, it's there.
This is boring TV now.
No, this is must-see TV.
It is. Lance, any other questions? Steve? I guess I would ask for a motion to approve.
They close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Let's make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second.
Ladies first.
But no one's recording this.
Oh, it's on TV?
She'll watch it probably.
Now, could I ask for a motion? And we read the decision into the motion, does that make sense? Paul?
You want to read the entire decision?
No, just the decision, the paragraph.
Yeah, sure.
You making a motion? Steve, are you making a motion?
You can keep it as simple as motion to grant the comprehensive permit.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to grant the comprehensive permit for 61 Carlisle Street.
Consistent with the decision drafted and reviewed at the hearing.
Consistent with the decision drafted and reviewed tonight. What was that?
Yeah, June 7th, 2018.
June 7th, 2018.
Do I have a second? A second by Nancy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? One opposed. Motion carries with a simple majority. Have a good night. A motion to close the
Hearing, meeting.
meeting.
Motion to close the meeting.
All in favor? Aye.